I was the provincial top scorer, but when I reincarnated, I found myself cheating on the National College entrance exam. A micro camera hidden in black-framed glasses transmitted footage to my best friend's lenses. Without uttering a word, she could see every answer I wrote. When results came out, she'd get into Beijing Film Academy as planned and become a star, while I'd end up kneeling to lace her shoes as her assistant. She turned away from the camera with a wry smile. A servant's daughter is destined to be a servant. I picked up my pen and began answering earnestly. This time, we both came in first place. I topped the provincial rankings while she ranked dead last. Sierra only acts like my bestie when her parents are around. We grew up together under the same roof. My dad chauffeured hers. My mom cooked for hers, while I trailed behind her at school. The year we turned 8, Sierra stood with hands on hips, boasting how generous her family was, if I behaved. My daughter could serve hers as a maid. I knelt on the ground. Sierra, could my daughter ever get to play the young mistress? She kicked me square in the chest. 1. Your whole family was born to serve. How dare you act like a lady? Sierra pressed my face under her foot, crouching down to stare at me. Father says servility is bred generation after generation. These words were far beyond an 8-year-old's understanding. That day, Sierra finally let me off the hook. Because I was obedient enough to wipe the mud off her princess shoes with my face, the price was becoming the little beggar my parents despised. Filthy and reeking, sobbing, I ran into the kitchen and hugged the person chopping vegetables. Mom, when are we moving out of here? Sierra, smack. My mother slapped me across the face. How many times must I tell you? You address her as miss. Get your filthy hands off me. Scram. My face burned with shame. I think I'm starting to understand what Sierra meant by servile mentality. Truth is, my parents respected her, but doted on her even more. In their eyes, Sierra was a princess raised in castles, innocent and kind-hearted, while I was a troublemaker forged by harsh lands, sharp-tongued, domineering, and untamable. Even 10 minutes in the garden would leave me covered in mud stains. My mom hit me with a clothes hanger, calling me a rabid little mutt, exhausted from beating me. She snapped at me to go change and wash up. I stood on a footstool to fetch water. The shirt clung to my back, stinging when peeled away. My mother doesn't know. If only she'd change me herself just once, then she'd see my tiny body covered in bruises and dried blood, from beatings, kicks, pinches, burns. Even the mud stains on my clothes traced perfect footprints. I'm being bullied, yet she dotes on the very ones who torment me. Waking in pain at midnight, I heard Mom sighing. If only Sierra were our daughter. Stop daydreaming. Dad turned over in bed. How could you bear to let such a wonderful girl suffer in our household? Of course I couldn't bear it. Mom grew angrier the more she thought about it, and gave me a kick. Got kicked in the thigh, where Sierra burned me with her cigarette. I gasped in pain with a muffled groan. My mom scoffed, sleeping like a log. Little did she know, I was wide awake. Sierra picked up all her tricks from TV shows. Watching My Fair Princess, she'd mimic Rong Momo's needle torture. The needle tip pierced through my fingernail, sliding beneath the surface. Blood dripped onto my pants, the pain searing straight to the bone. Clenching a rag between my teeth, I learned the idiom, fingers linked to the heart. The next day brought a quiz. Unable to hold a pen, I turned in a blank sheet. Home meant another beating. 2. Sierra watched Empresses in the Palace, and mimicked Suegwa by smashing my mouth bloody. She even tried using a scarf as makeshift silk rope to force me into suicide. Thankfully, it snapped just in time. Sierra warned me never to show my wounds to anyone. Once, I couldn't hold it in anymore and told Mom. Sierra hit me. My mom didn't believe me and scoffed. Miss Sierra hit you. She yanked my hair. That hair tie. She gave it to you. She tugged at my clothes. This dress. She bought it for you. She grabbed my wrist. That watch. It's from her. After all she's done for you. And this is how you repay her. Get out. My mom shoved me away. How could I raise such an ungrateful wretch? Sierra would shower me with gifts right in front of my parents, yet when we were alone, she'd call me the little servant spawn of 2 old slaves. I laughed. Seriously though, my father bends his back like a camel when opening car doors for Richard. Meanwhile, my mother would take their leftovers into the small room, pair it with a 2-yuan snow beer, and eat with relish. At first, I ate them too. I used to think king crab claws and Australian lobster heads were the most delicious things in the world. until one day when I went to get water at the back of the classroom. Sierra, your family must be loaded. You probably throw away thousands worth of food daily, right? Sierra's deskmate's voice carried across half the classroom. Nope, our leftovers. We never throw them away, usually feed them to the dogs. She held up 3 fingers, 3 of them. My hand froze mid-twist on the bottle cap. Damn, your dog eats better than I do. I pretended not to hear. As I walked past them, her desk mate called out to me, Violet, what breed is Sierra's dog? You must have seen it. Sierra's family doesn't even own a dog. The dogs she meant were me, my dad, and my mom. I said flatly, never seen one, wouldn't know. But don't you commute with Sierra daily? Doesn't your family live in the East Side Villas? 3. So just because I live here I'm supposed to know every damn dog in the neighborhood. You live on Earth too. Why don't you go deal with Japan's nuclear wastewater? I walked away as furious shouts trailed behind me. Oh wow, big shot living in the gated community. Too good for us peasants. Yet you still mooch rides from Sierra every day. On the first day of middle school, everyone had to fill out their home address. I had no home. So I left that line blank. Sierra, our class monitor, secretly filled in her home address behind my back. Before half a day passed, soon the whole class knew we had 2 trust fund kids living in the ultra-luxurious Oriental Gardens neighborhood. There's Sierra, gorgeous inside and out, with this effortless charm that draws people in. Then there's me, Violet, tacky, stingy, and throwing my weight around just because I've got money. Sierra won't let me make friends. She wanted me helpless and isolated, groveling at her feet alone. Because nothing satisfied her more than a spoiled rich girl willingly playing lapdog exclusively for her. That night, Mom brought another bowl of leftover Buddha jumps over the wall to her room. Remembering her daytime dog feeding analogy made me nauseous. Mom, why do we have to eat other people's leftovers? Are we that poor? What are we? They're family dogs. My mom got so mad she whacked me on the head with her chopsticks. What dog? You're nothing but an ungrateful brat. Too much schooling made you cocky, huh? Now you're too good for nice things. For, my head was buzzing. From what I remember, Mom only ever hit me because of Sierra. I used to think disrespecting her in public was the real offense. Turns out, disrespect behind someone's back is still wrong. I wasn't born living in a mansion. I was only 3 when we moved to Oriental Gardens. My dad and Sierra's father were comrades in arms. During military drills, Richard's gun accidentally discharged. My father pushed him out of harm's way, but got grazed in the right eye by the shell casing. My father was forced into early discharge from the army. No military rank, no honors. His eye injury left him unemployable. Richard's family was loaded. That day, Richard held my father's hands with tears streaming down his face. David, if it weren't for you shielding me back then, I'd have been dead long ago. How could I have made this fortune or lived in such a fine house? Between the lines, there was this chivalrous determination to split his empire with my old man. Only later did I come to understand. Back then, Richard's family business wasn't exactly legitimate. What Richard wanted was never a savior, but ruthless enforcers. Yet my father mistook it for battlefield brotherhood. For this, he not only willingly took the hits but also got himself a police record. That was when I lost my eligibility for the civil service exam. I've trained in self-defense since childhood, dreaming of becoming an outstanding policewoman. So when Sierra attacked me or classmates hurled insults, I never fought back. I know how rigorous police background checks are. I'm afraid this will go on my permanent record. My father knew better, but nearly beat those hired thugs into disability while protecting Richard. The police classified it as violent crime with organized crime elements. Having immediate family members convicted of violent crimes affects children's political background checks. In prison, my father thought about the thugs' injuries, Richard's predicament, his own bravery, everything except his only daughter. His self-righteous loyalty shattered the dream I'd quietly nurtured my entire life, but I'd begged him so many times. Besides driving, my father was also tasked with drinking on behalf of others, ended up hospitalized multiple times with alcohol-induced stomach perforations. Richard only visited that first time. Afterward, he just had his assistant deliver a red envelope along with a slightly complaining remark. What's going on, David? The older you get, the worse your alcohol tolerance becomes. As I wrung out the towel to wipe Dad's face, he was still staring at that red envelope with melancholy. Am I being a bother again? He muttered to himself. The red envelope contained 10,000 yuan, 10,000 yuan, enough to buy my father's health, his dignity, trading his once unbending spine for bowed submission. They couldn't even be bothered to remove the white seals. A neatly stacked pile of red bills glared conspicuously, unable to bear it any longer. I pulled up job listings and shoved the screen in their faces. The posting stated plainly, driver, yen 8-9 month, meals accommodation provided, for days off monthly, 5, live-in nanny, 9 to 10k monthly, room and board included. Richard's family only pays my parents 10k combined per month. I said, Dad, wake up. Does Richard really treat you like a brother? He's just paying you peanuts. 5k to sell your life cheap. My father's face visibly darkened. He yanked out the 4-needle. The next instant, a heavy slap landed across my face. A piercing tinnitus followed immediately. That single slap nearly ruptured my eardrum. He channeled all that protective energy meant for Richard onto his daughter, acting like such a money grubber at your age. Did all your education go to waste? I can't hear clearly, judging by his lip movements. He's absolutely furious right now. Then my mother grabbed me by the ear. How many times must I tell you? Address her as Miss. Just because she treats you like a sister doesn't mean you're nobility. They tag-teamed me relentlessly, demanding, do you admit your mistake? I stayed silent. They locked me in the bathroom to reflect on my actions. That's when I realized, the mark of slavery isn't branded on your face, but forged into your very bones. After that incident, I followed Sierra's words without question. I became one of them, a loyal dog. After school on Friday, Sierra invited classmates to karaoke. Afraid of overtime classes, she bossily ordered me around, the moment the final bell rings. Violet, you go snatch old Ma's wig. All eyes in the classroom were fixed on me. I was the top student in my grade, every teacher's favorite. Gripping the hem of my shirt, I muttered, understood. For the next few classes, I couldn't focus at all, my palms constantly sweating, until the school bell rang. Sierra looked up and jerked her chin at me. I sprang to my feet instinctively. The chair banged against the desk behind me from the sudden movement. Mr. Ma, may I use the restroom? Violet. Go ahead. The teacher's gaze swept across the classroom. Violet is the only student in the entire grade who solved this problem correctly. You should all learn from her. The class erupted in teasing chants. Oh, we should learn. My steps faltered momentarily. Little did Mr. Mason know. His prized student was about to yank off his toupee. Heading to the front door meant passing by the lectern, under everyone's watchful gaze. I stopped right beside Mr. Mason. What's wrong, Violet? He set down the workbook, clenching my palms. I bowed deeply and stammered, I'm so sorry, Mr. Mason, truly, terribly sorry. Before he could react, he felt a sudden chill atop his head. 6. By the time he realized, I'd already vanished into thin air. With his wig, peals of laughter erupted from the classroom behind me. I guess I'm just not even qualified to be a decent student. 3 days before the college entrance exams, Richard brought 2 pairs of black-framed glasses. The accompanying device can easily pass security checks at exam halls. When powered off, they appear as regular prescription glasses. When activated, one lens houses a camera while the other functions as a display. Sierra's stunning looks make her dream of becoming a star. She was just average academically, while I was the top student in the city. All I knew was studying. She had to climb over me to get ahead. The first person to persuade me to cheat was my own father, Violet. The Richards promised, if you agree, you can choose any major at Beijing Film Academy, and I'll cover all tuition. Got it. Looks like I'll be accompanying Sierra through college. Dad, I'm not going to Beijing Film Academy. My grades are good enough for Tsinghua or Peking University. My teacher said if I perform normally on the Gaokao, I'll likely be this year's provincial top scorer. I meant cheating would affect me, but Dad misunderstood. He thought I was afraid Sierra would steal my top spot. What are you worried about? Miss Sierra won't copy everything. You'll still be top of the class. No one's stealing your spot, but if she gets caught cheating, your daughter's entire future will be ruined. My father fell silent for a moment. You're such a strong student. Retaking the exam next year wouldn't change anything. On top of that, Richard fed my mom some pipe dreams. 7. He promised to fund my film studies degree at Beijing Film Academy. Then Sierra would be the superstar, and I'd be the big shot director, so I reluctantly agreed to help her cheat. Later, Sierra got admitted to Beijing Film Academy with a score of 650. I scored 725, ranking first in the province that year, and enrolled in film studies. After graduation, instead of becoming a director, I ended up as Sierra's assistant. She drugged me to gain resources. Later, headlines spread like wildfire. Top Gaokao scorer degrades herself, sleeps with director for resources. I leaped from the TV station rooftop. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day of the Gaokao. My gaze swept across the exam hall clock. Only 5 minutes into the test. Sierra, if you're gonna cheat, you'd better keep those eyes sharp and do it right. My pen danced wildly across the scratch paper. While the answers transferred onto the exam sheet grew neater by the minute, I'm making sure Sierra can read every word clearly and copy effortlessly. She used to complain my cursive handwriting was exhausting to read, so I switched from my fluent running script to precise regular script. I also know Sierra can't be bothered with solution steps, so to fool the system, I just needed one tiny trick. Mark the option right next to the correct answer every time. If the calculation showed A, my answer sheet would display B on the other side of the monitor. Sierra's so smug using me as her stepping stone. 8. Little does she know she's sinking deeper into the mire with every step. After the exam, Sierra reverted to her insufferably arrogant self. Violet, that look on your face. You aced it, didn't you? You don't actually think you could be a director, do you? For these 3 days, Sierra had been holding back to avoid affecting my exams. Now, she didn't need to anymore. Your whole family, such pitiful souls, doing everything yourselves, only to end up with nothing but empty laughter. She laughed with wild abandon. At this moment, I chose not to expose her. If you're going to make a monkey dance, you've got to let it jump around first, right? Yeah, I chimed in. Lucky you, born dumb, blessed dumb, you make the mess, I clean up your shit. I hooked my glasses onto her collar. Must feel great to piss wherever you want, huh, you. Sierra's face was a masterpiece in that moment. She raised her hand to hit me, but I pointed at the surveillance camera behind me. Fuming, she lowered her arm and mouthed 3 words. You'll pay for this. I smiled and said, bring it on, I'm waiting. I could take on 10 of you single-handedly. Back home, Richard was feeding his parents' pipe dreams again. He's planning to acquire 2 more companies. One was called Skyway Construction, handling government road projects. The other named Clear Home Services, specializing in housekeeping. Richard made them nominal legal representatives, no office hours required, offering 10% equity shares, $5,000 monthly stipends, plus year-end dividends. Sounds highly legally questionable. That's exactly how my parents got sold out by Richard's family. In the 5th year of Skyway Construction's operation, the corrupt official Richard dealt with got busted. Anti-corruption investigators uncovered their scheme with Skyway Construction to embezzle 200 million yuan of government funds. Richard fled afterward, leaving my father, the legal representative, holding the bag with a 10-year sentence. At the police station, Mom and I held hands with tears in our eyes, because Mom had been arrested earlier. 9. The so-called Yangqing housekeeping was just a local brothel disguised as a cleaning service, before we could even memorize the girls' faces. The vice squad raided the whole operation. The higher-ups falsely accused my mom of being the madam behind the scenes. Poor thing was still cooking when they cuffed her in utter confusion. She even forgot to turn off the stove. In the end, debts from both sides landed squarely on my shoulders. I had no choice but to endure Sierra's abuse. Too scared to quit. When I arrived, my parents were about to press their fingerprints onto the agreement. I stepped forward and grabbed their arms. Uncle, I'm quite familiar with Tianlu construction. Wasn't it called Huanyu before? Richard's face froze momentarily. Right now, I couldn't expose his collusion with corrupt officials. Huanyu, my father's hand trembled slightly as he held the pen. That Huanyu that abandoned unfinished projects and fled. Exactly, Dad. Huanyu owns several unfinished buildings. If you become their legal representative, they'll have someone to hold accountable. Forget it. He wiped the ink pad residue off his fingers. My mom also hesitated. Then what about my Yangqing housekeeping seems not to have the best reputation. I scratched my head. How so? My classmate's dad booked 3 home service calls last month that cost over $3,000 Now his mom's filing for divorce. My mom blurted out, what kind of housekeeping service charges that much? I scratched my head. Well, beats me. 10. Richard stormed off. The test scores are coming out soon. And the school held a college application workshop, asking parents to attend together. Sierra's parents were busy, so they asked my mom to go instead. As for my dad, he was too busy being Richard's lackey. In the whole classroom, only the seat next to me remained empty. My mom showed up all dressed up, sitting primly beside Sierra without even glancing my way. I've long gotten used to it. The homeroom teacher came to distribute sign-in sheets. Violet, why are your parents absent again? Skipping regular parent-teacher meetings is one thing, but how could they miss something as important as college application counseling? I drew a line through the parents' information field. It's all right, teacher, I can handle this myself. The phone vibrated. It was Sierra's message. Violet, pour the water in front of you onto the chair ahead. If she yells at you, slap her twice. One reason my parents hate me is because Sierra told them how terrible I was at school, hitting classmates, cursing teachers, seducing boys. They believed every word of it. I lowered my head and slowly typed 2 words, asshole, damn it. The sound of Sierra slamming her phone on the desk followed. Sierra, what's wrong? Her deskmate asked. The bean sprouts grow sparse. Sierra instantly regained her ladylike composure. It's nothing, just remembered a poem suddenly. My mother's heart ached hearing this. The college entrance exams are so grueling. Give your mind some rest now, dear. I let out a cold laugh. What's she working so hard for? She just copied all my answers. Take a 10-minute break. Sierra pulled me into the restroom with her little posse trailing behind. Violet, are you dying or something? Acting so cocky all of a sudden. Must be a deathbed swan song. What a pity. Such a loyal dog I've kept for over a decade. Sierra chuckled. The others joined in the laughter. What nonsense. I glanced at the squat toilet. Your mouth's so foul. Did you forget to wipe after eating? Sierra was completely enraged by me. What are you staring at? She commanded. You lot, dunk Violet's head into the toilet. 1 sip of toilet water costs 10 grand. A crowd gathered around. They'd pulled this stunt countless times. Old hands at the game. Yank 1 hair. Pay $100. Slap me and I'll give you $200. Sierra backed toward the sink. Violet, let's see whose mouth is filthier. The henchman with blunt bangs lunged at me viciously. I ducked beneath the hair-grabbing hand and countered with a spinning kick. Her face smashed into the toilet partition. I twisted her arm behind her back and pinned her down. Fine wine in luminous cups glows bright. What comes next? His subordinate shuddered. Top of the class indeed. Reciting poetry while throwing punches. To drink pipa wine urged by horseback. Wrong. It's 1 cup for the ox, 1 cup for me. As she stood there dumbfounded, I forced a mouthful of toilet water down her throat. She immediately started retching. No need to rush. Nobody's fighting you for it. Just then, another person swung a kick my way. I grabbed her ankle and yanked it forward. Rip. The crotch seam split open. She was forced into doing her first full split. What's 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 9, 2, 6? I asked. Pi. Nope. Just a number. You're not playing by the rules. MMPH. Glug glug. My self-defense skills finally came in handy. The third girl who fell victim to my scissor lock seemed much calmer about it. She glared at me imperiously. Your move. 11. From what I recall, she had pretty good grades, sometimes even ranking in the top 10 of her grade. Interesting. I crouched down. Given Peking University's admission score cutoff is 703, Xiaoshui scored 141 in Chinese, 149 in math, and 145 in English. So, her mind was racing. There seemed to be a rush to answer. Science composite score at least 26. Is Xiaoshui sensitive-skinned? Sensitive skin. Wrong answer. Toilet water coming right up. When the top student snapped, that's when they finally got scared. Sierra saw things turning ugly and tried to bolt. She barely took 2 steps before I grabbed her by the collar and yanked her back. Violet, what do you think you're doing? This is a school. Then was this still a school when you pulled that stunt? You bitch, lay 1 finger on me and I'll. My mom's right outside. She's right about you, a rabid stray, an ungrateful wretch. I shoved a toilet brush into Sierra's mouth. Scrub, scrub, scrub. What's wrong, princess? Been marinating that foul mouth for years. Scrub, scrub, scrub. Dark ET plus keeps your breath fresh all day long. The girl with the Heimcut hairstyle seized the chance to escape. Teacher, something's wrong. Violet's gone crazy in the bathroom. The homeroom teacher and my mom rushed toward the restroom. A crowd of nosy parents and classmates trailed behind. The door swung open. There I was, with Sierra tucked under my left arm and another girl under my right, deep in scholarly discussion. Explain amino acid dehydration condensation to me. Sierra wiped her reddened eyes frantically while scrubbing her mouth. Disgusting. I turned to another person. Hey, Chow Pai's wife going to the vegetable patch. Zhenji's harvesting veggies. The parents outside were utterly dumbfounded. Top of the class sure is different, huh, even after finals, still keeping classmates in check. If only I could have a daughter this bright and hardworking, right? Violet's parents must have done some serious good karma in their past lives. What's the point of having kids if they won't even show up to parent-teacher meetings? These so-called parents should have just flushed their load. My mom was utterly mortified. An aunt nudged her and said, right, Sierra's mom. She could only nod awkwardly and mumble some vague responses. As the crowd dispersed, Sierra started vomiting violently again. I waved my phone. I've backed up all those photos and videos you took while bullying me. Sierra, didn't you say you wanted to be famous? Go ahead, try messing with me again. With dirt on her in my hands, Sierra's been much more restrained. On results night, she rented out a KTV booth and invited me. She didn't just invite half the class. She even paid influencers to live stream it. She'd even pre-booked trending hashtags. Most beautiful Gaokao examinee meets Beijing Film Academy's cutoff score. At the time, Sierra was the first to exit the examination hall. She gave interviews to reporters at the school gate. How did you find this year's exam difficulty? No big deal. Just sat in the next classroom for 20 minutes. 12. Her queen energy was so strong you could smell it 3 towns over. As everyone knows, after submitting Gaokao papers early, examinees can't leave the test center. They're escorted to a designated classroom instead. So which university are you planning to apply to? Sierra tucked her cascading hair behind one ear and flashed a coy smile at the camera. What do you think? The reporter froze momentarily. By the time they regained composure, only Sierra's elegant retreating figure remained. People in the VIP box were hyping her up while putting me down. Sierra's gonna be a huge star. Her autograph will fetch 10 grand someday. Not like some book smart nobodies destined for cubicle farms. Nah, Violet's got director written all over her. Then Sierra unexpectedly spoke up for me. Still dreaming of being a director? Pfft, name me 5 female directors on any best films list. Who knows? Maybe she's just in it for the young eye candy. Bahahahaha. Waves of laughter rolled through the private booth. 13. Sierra shot me a look that said, none of my business. I flashed her a grin that screamed, not my fucking problem, my little monkey, you could jump even higher. A waiter came in with a fruit platter. The chatter suddenly hushed as if someone hit pause, making me look up. A pair of long legs pushed open the private room door. Though dressed as a waiter, he carried an unmistakable air of nobility. Soft strands of hair fell across his brows, veiling those ink-dark eyes. Lucas. Lucas served the fruit platter and left immediately. The entire time, he didn't utter a word except, enjoy. Under the dim, swirling lights, I saw Sierra, blushing. So that's why, it happened that long ago. No wonder she had me stalking Lucas' schedule daily during my assistant days to arrange those coincidental meetups. Wow, look at our scholarship kid, ditching the uniform for a suit. Pretty slick, huh? The girls started teasing. What do you know? He's been working here for 3 years. Rumor has it some sugar mommy pays him big bucks. Total gold digger. The guys weren't having it. Sierra remained silent. I caught a glimpse of her screen. Holy cow, quietly ordered 2 more fruit platters. The clock struck midnight. Scores are out. Sierra touched up her makeup beforehand. The influencer suddenly swung her camera around, drawing everyone's attention to Sierra checking her results. Enter, exam admission number, enter, password, click, search, 14. Sierra's face froze instantly. The influencer didn't notice her reaction, continuing her live stream with a smile. Folks, let's check out this aspiring BFA applicant's college entrance exam score. 38. Wait, 38. The live feed awkwardly cut away. Sierra froze for a moment before lunging to snatch my phone. The screen displayed, Violet 725. She let out a relieved sigh. Must have been a mistake in the records. Definitely a mistake. Exactly. I pulled back my phone and leaned close to Sierra's ear. This is your true level, 38. Sierra's legs gave way as she collapsed to the floor. No way. How could this happen? I only changed a few multiple choice answers. 15. The most beautiful Gaokao candidate scores 38, trended online. Sierra was too grief-stricken to cancel her purchase. The most beautiful Gaokao student reaches Beijing Film Academy's cutoff score, was listed alongside it on the rankings. Peking University's reputation took a hit. After everyone left, Lucas came in to clean up the mess. I extended my hand in congratulations. Hey Lucas, you nailed the exams. He tossed the last empty bottle into the trash. 16. I haven't checked yet. How do you know I did well on the test? Miscalculation. When Sierra was chasing him, I had memorized all the intel. The college entrance exam section left a particularly deep impression. 721. Provincial top scorer he was. While Lucas took third place, I remember thinking back then, if Lucas hadn't been working part-time every day, he'd have easily taken first place. What a shame this top student ended up at the most mediocre art school. Because all the tuition money he'd saved from odd jobs was gambled away overnight by his father, the art school extended an olive branch, offering him 30 yen. 000 annual scholarship for his mother's medical treatment if he enrolled. Lucas accepted. Later, he was recruited for films and became a nationwide sensation, but I knew this glamorous Lucas wasn't doing well. I once stumbled upon his clinical depression diagnosis in the dressing room. There was a dinner gathering that day. Sierra asked me to invite him. Lucas turned it down. Before leaving, he paused to give me some advice. Don't accept drinks from Director Baldi. Avoid sitting next to Assistant Director Ma, and don't believe Producer Chen's promises about trading drinks for career favors. I remembered, but something still went wrong. I guarded against everyone, except the drink Sierra handed me. Haven't checked yet, then check now. I opened the website. Admission ticket or ID card. 17. Lucas remained silent, just eyeing me warily, not talking. Fine. ID number 330682200. I recited while typing. He finally snapped and snatched my phone. I quickly explained, don't look at me like I'm some creep. Your info got posted on the school forum by your fangirls. At most, I just have a photographic memory. Lucas chuckled, finished dialing the remaining numbers, and tossed the phone back to me. Don't worry, you're still the top scorer. The screen displayed glaring numbers. 721. Not bad at all, Lucas. Truth be told, I knew it all along. Wait, how did he know my score? Sierra had a complete breakdown, with 38 points. She ranked dead last in the entire province excluding absentees. She cried her eyes out at home. My mother was heartbroken, scolding me for being so young yet so cunning. Violet, go confess to the admissions office right now about cheating, or don't you dare call me mom again. I nodded. Got it. Wang Suehua. My mother never expected I'd address her by her full name. She was so furious her hair practically stood on end. She swung at me instinctively. You little brat, trying to be the death of me. I dodged. Oh please, we're all gonna die anyway. What's wrong with dying from my mischief? Obedient in life, rebel in death. Hell yeah. That night, my mom's hypertension spiraled out of control for the first time. The next day, she reported me for cheating on the college entrance exam, as only a real mother would. That's how it had to be. Her young mistress wouldn't have to face retaking exams all alone. This incident alarmed the principal, and reporters swarmed the entrance. Sierra arranged this. I ruined her, and now she wants to ruin me. The principal summoned me before the authorities. Violet, Sierra, and your mother jointly reported you for cheating. This is the head of the Education Bureau. They have some questions for you. Understood, Principal? A portly bespectacled man inquired. Violet, do you admit to cheating? Teacher, what kind of cheater becomes the national top scorer? I've always ranked first in our grade. Why would I need to cheat? Then why don't your exam paper answers match the answer sheet? I glanced at Ms. Wang Suehua with a hint of grievance in my voice. Well, it's because of my mom. Me? My mom snapped, slapping me across the face. You shameless brat. You're the one who cheated, and now you're blaming me. 18. 5 bright red fingerprints marked my cheek as camera flashes lit up outside the window. Damn, that's straight up domestic abuse. If they'll hit her on camera. God knows what kind of tag team beatings happen behind closed doors. My mother froze for a second. Normally I'd have bolted before that slap could land. With tears in my eyes, I pulled out a fortune slip from my pocket labeled Misfortune. Mom got 2 fortune slips. The supreme luck one went to Sierra. The misfortune, one, that was mine. I couldn't sleep, so I went to consult a master. He said I was haunted by the ghost of failure, and told me to shift my answers one space over when writing the exam to confuse it. By the way, have the teachers checked my scratch paper? It shows clear step-by-step solutions. I swear on my family's health, Violet, absolutely did not cheat. The signature thing is real. The failed candidate ghost story was my fabrication. The investigation team nodded repeatedly. We've reviewed everything. Your problem-solving approach is clearer than the reference answers. With that statement, my cheating allegations were effectively cleared. The journalists listened to the whole thing and were absolutely livid. What kind of mother does that? Reporting her own daughter for cheating? Exactly. Even if I drew the worst fortune slip, I'd never wish it on my daughter. Who messes with their kid's head like that? The Gaokao champions like pretty sheep. 3,000 episodes without a mom. It was the first time my mom got roasted by so many people. Wished the ground would swallow me whole. I dodged the camera and flashed a smirk at Mom and Sierra. The footage will tell the tale from this day forward. I, Violet, am done playing the filial piety card. Sierra dug her own grave and decided to drag me down with her. Violet did cheat. She pointed at me with manic laughter. Just by helping me cheat. The boss turned away to make a call. Check Sierra's exam paper for me. The results came back quickly. How come Sierra's answers match Violet's test by 90%? My face froze in shock. Sierra, you've got some supernatural sixth sense or what? Violet, stop playing dumb, the investigator asked us. All right, what's going on here? I hesitated for a long moment. 3 days before the college entrance exam, Sierra gave me a pair of glasses. Right in front of everyone. Could it mean? Where are the glasses? The glasses. Returned them to Sierra after the exam. Got it right here. Sierra pulled it out of her bag. God, she's really dumb, keeping evidence intact and carrying it around. Unbelievable. Works for me. This way I'm completely in the clear. Only after trying them on did the executives realize one pair had a camera, the other a monitor. I couldn't stop trembling. So, you gave me these glasses just to cheat off my answers. I really thought you wanted to be friends. So Sierra, you asked for it back afterwards. Were you trying to destroy evidence? Then why didn't you just get rid of it? Oh, so because I made you copy it as 38, you're getting back at me. Sierra never expected I could distance myself so cleanly from this. She grabbed my hand. Violet, if you're innocent, why did you take my glasses and wear them into the exam hall? Why didn't you refuse? You're not even nearsighted. Sierra sneered. What's wrong? Can't talk your way out of this one. All eyes were on me. The camera is shoved right in my face. Why do you take it when Sierra offers? Why wear glasses if you're not nearsighted? Because, slowly, I unbuttoned my shirt. The purplish bruises and old scars on my back and hands, grotesque and hideous, were finally exposed. I've been enduring 13 years of relentless bullying. Sierra was convicted of cheating and barred from taking college entrance exams for 3 years. Stupid, vile, bullying. Every ugly word imaginable was hurled at her. She developed some mental health issues. Richard decided to send her abroad to lay low. When Mom came home, she was practically out of her mind with worry. I couldn't tell whether she was grieving for Sierra or for me. In the pre-dawn hours, a shadow fell across my bedside. 19. Then rough hands brushed against my face. You've grown so much. My mother sighed. I barely had time to watch before my little girl became a woman. My heart aches with sorrow. Her maternal love came too late, leaving me overwhelmed and afraid to wake up to face it. You've been stubborn since childhood, suffering in silence, with so many wounds. How much pain you must have endured. My mother sighed and slipped something under my pillow. Waking up the next morning, the room felt noticeably emptier. Dad told me Mom went abroad with Sierra, so, she still cares more about her, doesn't she? My fingers brushed against something hard beneath the pillow. It was a bank card containing their entire life savings, 500,000 yuan. That evening, my father called me over. I thought he wanted to discuss my college application choices, but then, tomorrow, I'm leaving for Hong Kong with your uncle. For good. Richard's business dealings in Hong Kong are downright filthy. My father took 2 steps, then turned back. Oh, and this villa's already listed. When potential buyers come by, show them around. Then where am I supposed to stay? He frowned. Didn't your mom give you her card? Unbelievable. Everyone's acting like Richard's shit smells like roses. I packed my bags and left overnight. Before leaving, with my left hand, I penned a detailed 5,000-word whistleblowing letter. It documented Richard's collusion with corrupt officials, even including diagrams marking the hidden money stashes. I owe this all to my past life. After those corrupt officials fell from grace, the state turned their cases into documentaries. To study the filming techniques, I watched them at least 10 times. At the end of the whistleblower letter, I added a small footnote. That one-eyed guy with Richard packs quite a punch. Watch your backs. No need to thank me, Dad. You two aren't just comrades in arms. Soon you'll be cellmates too. Mailed the whistleblower letter. The grudges from my past life are pretty much settled. Wait, no. There's still one left. Lucas. Lucas might come off cold, but he's helped me out more than once. And his father is even more unreliable than mine. Not only was he a compulsive gambler, but he even considered selling his wife and son. At just 8 or 9 years old, his father forced him to serve drinks to wealthy women. When he refused, he was beaten black and blue. Let me do the math. Tonight while Lucas is out working, his father will steal his tuition money to gamble. I rounded up some local troublemakers and headed to the nearby casino. 1 hour later, I got a call from the police. Lucas arrived at the same time as me. His hair was still slick with gel. Probably came straight from his KTV side gig. A flicker of confusion crossed Lucas's eyes when he spotted me. What are you doing here? I scratched the back of my head. 20. I hired someone to beat up your dad. In the hall, several people were sporting black eyes and bruises. The young cop came to take statements. All right, explain why you threw hands. Lucas was cuffed to the chair with one hand, gesturing wildly at the gang with the other while cursing. I was just minding my own business when these punks asked if I sold ass. Said no. Then they robbed me. The officer turned to the bleached hair troublemakers. Blondie gritted his teeth angrily. I just asked casually. And this old fart snapped. Screw your mom, man. Leave moms out of insults. It's basic decency. The two were clearly about to throw down again. The cop slammed the desk. Cut it out. This ain't a damn flea market. Blondie stayed loyal. Didn't rat me out. Stepping out of the police station, he pulled the cash from his pocket. Sis, it's all here. Got there just in time. The old bastard hadn't even made it to the casino when I cornered him. Blondie burned with righteous anger. Lucas passed by and got cursed at by him. Damn it, stealing money meant for a kid's education. Get a real job. Sure, she's older, but some guys prefer experience. Don't judge a book by its cover. Hey, why you running? I'm hooking you up. Lucas knew better than to mess with him, walking away briskly as if fleeing from kidnappers. I shoved the money into Lucas's hand. Don't lose it this time. He didn't look at the money nor ask why I'd sent people to intercept his father. Just stood there staring at me without moving a muscle. Funny thing is, the names, Lucas and Violet, often appeared side by side on the school honor roll, yet we barely crossed paths in person, because Sierra wouldn't allow it. The evening breeze tousled Lucas' hair, leaving a stray strand across his forehead. Something glimmered there, and I reached out to touch it. What's this? My fingertips came away sparkling. Ahem, hey fans. It's just a KTV promo event they're running. Lucas never expected me to make a move. His ears turned crimson red. Kinda hilarious. Fans say Lucas has a devil's face but a monk's heart. Look at you blushing. I changed the subject. Lucas, where are you applying tomorrow? Tsinghua University. I major. Then he asked, how about you? 21. I thought for a moment. Beijing Film Academy, majoring in film studies. Why did you choose this again? He used the word again, but I didn't catch it, because I love it, sure. Sierra got me into this field last time, but I genuinely adore this profession. I'd love to create some great work too. Lucas' lips moved silently. I noticed he repeated the word, like, twice. Violet, there's actually something I've been meaning to ask you. My heart started racing inexplicably. After being frozen by Lucas for 10 seconds, he asked, you're pretty tight with that punk, huh? His tone carried an edge of irritation. Why is he asking about Blondie, planning some payback? I patted Lucas on the shoulder. Don't overthink it, sis. Some questions don't have answers. I slipped away before Lucas could react. See you in Beijing. Tanhualang. My figure disappeared around the corner. Lucas let out a quiet sigh. Couldn't bring myself to ask after all. By the time we met again, it was already the second semester of sophomore year. I was in class at the time. The dim classroom had its curtains tightly drawn, with the projector playing the documentary 7 Up. Got a message from Lucas, you free, I'm at the school gate, I replied, wait up, 10 minutes, a light drizzle was falling, a passing girl tried striking up conversation by offering her umbrella, only for Lucas to wave her off. I caught sight of frayed rope marks around his wrist. Rumor had it his mother had passed away. That's when Lucas's depression first took root, if memory serves. It's raining. Why not wait at the cafe across the street? I held the umbrella over his head. This won't take long. Lucas pulled out a bank card. There's $200K in here. For you. I feigned surprise. Damn Lucas, bold move. Publicly keeping a college girl. Someone glanced our way. Lucas' ears turned crimson. Violet, stop teasing. You know perfectly well this money is yours. Now it was my turn to freeze. A year ago, Lucas's mother was admitted to the ICU, worried he might drop out of school because of this. I secretly covered his mom's medical bills under the guise of financial aid. 10,000 yuan every month for 18 straight months. By the third month, Lucas had obtained my contact details from the foundation, the alternate account I gave him. The username was downright creepy. Come here girl, let uncle spoil you. I crafted my persona as a 35-year-old sentimental sugar daddy, mostly playing therapist, occasionally flirting, and every now and then asking for shirtless shots. The thing is, he actually sent it. I'm starting to think Lucas might actually be gay. Eventually, my teasing got way out of hand. Me, uncle's business failed and he's heartbroken. Quick, show me those pecs. Him, stop messing around, get some sleep. Me, can't put my finger on why, but uncle just wants to see you shower. Him, good night. Me, insomnia sucks, can't even sleep myself. How am I supposed to sleep with you? Him, I don't even want to think about it. If my cover gets blown, it'd be so embarrassing. Lucas, I don't get what you're saying. Besides, I'm still a student. Where would I get that kind of money? Oh really? To my surprise, I actually saw amusement flicker in Lucas's eyes. Absolutely. All right, I'll give uncle a call. He emphasized the word uncle. The next second, a ringtone sounded from the pocket. I hung my head low, not even daring to reach for the phone. All right, I'm right here, I admitted. 22. It's okay, Violet, life's too short. Lucas' eyes twinkled with amusement. Violet, just take the card. I hesitated before reaching out. Where did you get this money? Sold the patent for an AI project I did with my advisor. Even without being an award-winning actor, he still shines brilliantly. I transferred 20,000 back to him. For interest, I want something else. What? Payment in kind. He choked on his words, choking on a breath stuck in his throat. His face turned beet red. What are you thinking? I mean, our teacher assigned us to shoot a vlog called One Day. I want you to be my lead. Lucas is truly a born actor. His camera presence is impeccable. Every frame is pure artistry. My video went viral. People kept asking me for Lucas's contact, even senior sisters already in the circle. For a fleeting moment, I felt he'd become that unattainable figure again. It's not that I'm not good enough. It's just that Lucas shines too bright. Feeling a bit annoyed. But I'm not gonna be the only one bothered by this. Logged into my alt account. Sweetheart, let uncle pamper you. Ugh, need to see those abs to feel better. Thought he'd already deleted this account. Didn't expect Lucas to reply instantly. He sent a picture. 23. The dark top lifted slightly at the hem, revealing subtle curves while the desk concealed those long legs. Wiped it, but not really. Wait, that's wrong. This kid's supposed to be in class. The phone vibrated twice. Make do with this. Any higher and the teacher will start roll call. Thud. The phone hit the ground. My roommate leaned in close beside me. Violet, have you been watching something naughty? Your face is all flushed. Picked up my phone. Just noticed Lucas changed his profile status. No acting gigs. No showbiz circles. And please don't bother my girlfriend. Thanks. Oh no. My face is burning even redder now. Getting together just felt like the most natural thing. Lucas turned out to be way clingier than I'd imagined. By day, he's holed up in the lab working on his AI projects with dead seriousness. Come nightfall, he's pestering me with questions. How come you're falling asleep the moment you hit the bed lately? Has he been slacking off on his workouts recently? Why am I not even interested in checking out his abs anymore? Seriously, it's not like I'm some desperate cougar. I forced my eyes open and gave him a half-hearted grope. Don't worry, Everything's crystal clear. No way, Violet. I felt the bed dip as he shifted. Can't sleep. Gotta do some push-ups. A shadow fell over me as he murmured, "It's fine. Go back to sleep." Lucas is already house hunting in his senior year. He's been freelancing since junior year and making serious bank. Meanwhile, I've directed several indie projects that gained some traction in the industry. Special thanks to my generous sponsor, Lucas, for his full support. Tonight marks the award ceremony. I'm honored to be nominated for both Best Director and Best Documentary Short. The media always makes a point of adding female director in their reports, as if it were some rare phenomenon. Stepping out of the venue, I spotted Lucas standing by the car door in the distance. As I approached, he pulled me into his arms. "Violet, let's stay in Beijing," he said. "You don't realize how radiant you look on stage." I chuckled. 24. The sugar daddy calls the shots. On graduation day, I received a call from the States. "Is Ms. Wang Suihua your mother?" "Yes." I sensed something was off. "She took her own life," the voice added. "A suicide out of guilt. Turns out my mom went to America to get revenge for me. Sierra never even made it to school. My mother kept her in prison and tortured her for 4 years. When police found the body, it had over 200 needle marks, more than 20 burn wounds, and countless cuts and blunt force injuries. What's worse, she was also tormented by drug addiction." At the end of the call, the person on the other end asked, "By the way, what's special about June 6, 2024? June 6th. It flashed through my mind in an instant. It wasn't any of our birthdays, nor my parents' anniversary, or any particularly meaningful date. No idea. I was at an award ceremony that day. That explains it. The American police couldn't figure out why. After 4 years of torment, they suddenly killed the person. Later, they discovered a recording. Sierra said she had my nude photos and threatened to release them to the media on that particular day. That's what finally sent my mom over the edge." What followed was 2 hours of screaming and wailing. 2 more days passed. My mother chose to kill herself in remorse only after my graduation ceremony ended. Before dying, she cut her finger, written in blood on the ground, "I'm sorry." Maternal instinct awakened. Happy now? Not really. I've outgrown the age when maternal love mattered most, and now, there's someone who loves me deeply by my side. 1 month later, the whistleblower letter I wrote when leaving the villa finally got a response. 25. News of the corrupt official's downfall spread like wildfire online. Richard tried to flee but was intercepted by my father. Richard was trussed up and hauled off to the police station. My father also confessed to his actions without reservation. I didn't visit him in prison, and my father never told me either. My mother's revenge against Sierra worked so well because my father was secretly helping her from Richard's side. The money my mom used to inject Sierra with drugs was also transferred through Richard's account by my father. Both of them were fighting for justice on my behalf. After I'd gotten my revenge, silently turned off the news, I sat by the bay window. The sunlight felt divine, like absolution washing over me. "What's got you so lost in thought?" Lucas wrapped his arms around me from behind, planting gentle kisses on my neck. "We got married right after graduation. Now a tech mogul, he's been pouring money into my projects like crazy." "Lucas, I want to make a film about school bullying." "All right, I'll call accounting." I grabbed his hand. "It's not about the money." "Then what is it?" "We're still missing a male lead." I sighed. "Tell me. Where am I supposed to find a male actor with Oscar-worthy acting skills, fresh-faced good looks, who's cheap, reliable, and durable?" "That hard to find." Lucas nuzzled his chin against my shoulder twice. "You said it." He suddenly stood up and stepped right in front of me. "Violet, what do you think of me?" "The figure's decent. Looks good. Age is fine. But, can you act?" He pressed a fist against his nose and chuckled. "Take a guess." Lucas's signature move. "Not bad, Lucas. You've been holding out on us." 26. "What about your company then?" He pretended to hesitate for 3 seconds. "What can I do? My wife's career comes first." Story 2. In the apocalypse of a blizzard, I stopped my boyfriend from rescuing his childhood sweetheart. His childhood sweetheart was frozen into a human ice sculpture. My boyfriend and I survived the disaster. But before our wedding, my boyfriend killed me and froze my body in a freezer. "It's all your fault that Lila died. You should also taste the suffering that Lila endured back then." It turned out that he had always resented me for not letting him save his childhood sweetheart, and he blamed me for her death. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the day when the blizzard struck. My boyfriend looked out the window worriedly and said, I wonder how Lila is doing. 1. It was pouring rain, and the news was being broadcast on my phone. Urgent notice. Affected by the heavy rainstorm. An accident occurred in a zoo in our city. Several Arctic wolves accidentally escaped. Currently, the relevant departments have intervened urgently. I opened my eyes. I saw my boyfriend Sebastian looking out the window with a worried expression. I wonder how Lila is doing. In my previous life, he wanted to go out and look for Lila, who insisted on going out for a live broadcast. I stopped him. When the extreme cold of the blizzard arrived, Lila was frozen into a human ice sculpture. Sebastian and I survived, but just before we were about to step into the wedding hall, Sebastian suddenly stabbed a knife into my abdomen. He didn't care at all that there was also his child inside me. He folded me head down and stuffed me into the freezer. In the last second before I was engulfed by the darkness, I heard him say, "It's all because you stopped me from saving Lila that she died. I want you to taste the suffering that Lila endured back then too." It turned out that he had always resented me for not letting him save his childhood sweetheart Lila. He blamed me for her death. Well then, I looked at Sebastian, who was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and looking at the rainstorm. There are still 3 hours left. The rainstorm that has been pouring for 3 days in the midsummer will stop. Immediately after, a blizzard will sweep through the city, and the temperature will drop by 10 degrees per second. The whole city will be frozen. Everyone who is outside will be frozen into a human ice sculpture by the sudden drop in temperature. In this life, I won't stop you from saving her. I want to watch you go to your deaths. 2. Sebastian frowned at me impatiently. If it wasn't for celebrating your birthday, would Lila have come to this villa on the halfway up the mountain? Now she ran out in the rainstorm to do a live broadcast. If anything happens to her, you will be fully responsible. Do you understand? I come from a well-off family, but my parents passed away early. The only relative left in my family is my aunt. Sebastian and his childhood sweetheart Lila took advantage of my gentle and easy-to-talk-to personality. They relied on me for a living while treating me badly and used all kinds of means to emotionally manipulate me, PUA me. This time, it was clearly because Sebastian and Lila wanted to do a live broadcast online and create the image of rich second-generation people. That's why they asked me to bring them to the idol villa on the halfway up the mountain, but they said it was to celebrate my birthday and blamed everything on me. No, I'm not. I have to go out and find Lila. I didn't persuade him as desperately as I did in my previous life. Saying that the rainstorm was dangerous and showing him how many accidents had occurred outside in the news, to make him stay at home. Instead, I smiled and nodded. Okay, you can go. I will watch your live broadcast at home. Sebastian, like Lila, is a somewhat famous live streamer. Every time I wanted Sebastian to publicly acknowledge me as his girlfriend to his fans, he shook his head and refused, saying that he would lose his female fans. But then he would immediately go live with Lila and play up their couple, CP, relationship. I really regret being so blind in my previous life. I thought that both of them were my true and sincere friends. I didn't realize that they just saw me as a part of their game. I was also so stupid as to help Sebastian manage his account. I took care of everything from shooting, editing to post-production. I was exhausted like a dog but still thought it was worth it. No wonder Sebastian didn't even think about it and said directly, "Come with me and take the shots for me." I refused. An angry expression immediately appeared on his face. "What do you want to do staying here alone? Is it that your aunt has introduced someone to you for a blind date again? I'm telling you, Natalie, how can you be so flirtatious and shameless? If I had been as weak in character as I was in my previous life and was scolded like this, I would definitely have done anything to prove my innocence." He, Sebastian, just took advantage of this weakness of mine. But now, I have already died once. I lowered my head and smiled shyly. Actually, I'm pregnant. 3. If I'm pregnant, it's naturally impossible for me to run around in the rainstorm. He has always been coveting the property left by my parents. In my previous life, he killed me after we got the marriage certificate. Now, I'm using this to deceive him. The joy of the approaching success of my plan will reduce his caution. Sure enough, he was overjoyed when he heard the news, but he still pretended to be calm and told me not to contact my aunt, lest I be led astray. I nodded. When the baby is born in the future, you will be the baby's biological father, and Lila will be the baby's godmother. Then we'll bring mom over. We can live a good life as a family. He no longer insisted on me going out with him. Instead, He held an umbrella and walked into the rainstorm. Lila's live broadcast just ended. I'm worried that something will happen to her, so I'm going to find her first. I won't keep you company. You and the baby stay at home safely. The rainstorm soon soaked his clothes. Ominous dark clouds gathered in the sky and kept pressing down. Who understands? Who understands? In such extreme weather, he still wants to go out to save Lila. This is definitely a true love that can move heaven and earth, anyway. I don't understand. I watched him walk away, and then I closed all the doors and windows tightly and locked them from the inside. Then I called my aunt. You must come home within 3 hours, don't stay outside, prepare warm clothes and food, just get through the next month. My aunt was silent for a while. She didn't ask why, and just said one word, okay. Her gentle voice made me shed tears involuntarily. In my previous life, because of what Sebastian said, I distanced myself from my only relative, my aunt. She also died in this blizzard. I cried my eyes out, and Sebastian held me in his arms, promising that he would take good care of me, but the way he took care of me was to kill me and throw me into the freezer. I really regret not listening to my aunt's words and staying away from this group of ruthless people. Now, in this new life, I want to rewrite all of this, for, after giving instructions to my aunt, I also started to make preparations myself. In my previous life, I was able to survive the blizzard with Sebastian. It was thanks to the abundant resources in the villa on the halfway up the mountain and the fireplace that could keep us warm. In this life, without Sebastian, there are even more than enough resources, and I'm not worried. After taking care of everything, I nestled on the warm and dry sofa, turned on the iPad, searched, and entered Sebastian's live broadcast room. Sebastian was walking in the city full of water in the rainstorm. The dark clouds almost pressed down on his head, but he didn't seem to notice at all. At the place where Lila's live broadcast ended, he shouted, Lila, Lila, where are you? The bullet comments were deeply moved. What? In such heavy rain, Sebastian is still walking outside alone. He's looking for Lila. Woo woo woo, this damned love. I'm stuffed with so much dog food. They are together through thick and thin. There is such a touching love in this era. Some fans were also worried and reminded him, Sebastian, don't stay outside any longer. My dad works at the Meteorological Bureau. He said that the temperature will drop suddenly soon. He told us not to go out. I moved my fingers. Using my management authority, I added this fan to the blacklist of the live broadcast room. In my previous life, the country quickly reacted, urgently notified the citizens to protect themselves, and controlled the disaster within a month. If Lila hadn't insisted on courting death and going out for a live broadcast on a rainy day to gain traffic, she wouldn't have had an accident. Sebastian kept searching. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he found Lila, who was stuck at the sewer outlet and crying out in pain. Lila. He rushed over and hugged her as if he was hugging some precious treasure that he had lost and found again. The CP fans were very excited. I watched coldly. Lila's foot was stuck by an unknown large iron block that was washed here by the rainstorm, and she could hardly move. On her calf, there were obvious marks of being scratched by the iron block, and the wounds were deep enough to see the bone. I looked at the time. There is still 1 hour left before the blizzard arrives. The temperature will drop by 10 degrees per second. The whole city will be covered by frost. 5. Sebastian tried his best to move the large iron block, and accidentally cut his hand as well. Blood flowed out, and the wound was soaked in dirty water, making it very easy to get infected. The number of bullet comments in the live broadcast room kept increasing. What is true love? This is true love. My partner would definitely run away and leave me if they were in this situation. Sebastian, what a real man. I watched the screen indifferently, watching the time pass by minute by minute. Sebastian finally managed to move the iron block away. Lila was frightened and weakly nestled in his arms, crying. I counted in my heart. Another 5 minutes were wasted. There are still 15 minutes left. Suddenly, another bullet comment appeared in the live broadcast room. It seemed to be a new account of the fan who was previously blacklisted by me. Sebastian, run. My dad said that the temperature will drop suddenly soon. Staying outside will be life-threatening. The country will issue an urgent notice soon. Run with Lila quickly. Lila accidentally glanced at the screen. Sebastian, is this true? Sebastian frowned. Who is this? They don't even have a first-level fan badge, and they are scaring people here. Where is the moderator? Blacklist him. Naturally, I was the moderator. I moved my fingers and added this new account to the blacklist again. Sebastian gently soothed Lila a few words. He showed a patience that he had never shown in front of me. He lifted Lila's leg and examined it carefully. He asked her if it hurt. Lila blushed and said, "It's okay. It doesn't hurt anymore since you've looked at it." The live broadcast room was instantly filled with excitement from the CP fans. "Yo yo yo, it doesn't hurt anymore since you've looked at it. I'm stuffed with so much dog food. Is there anyone to stop this?" Some people also noticed something wrong from the screen. "Hey, look, has that flag suddenly stopped moving?" The flag on the building in the distance was frozen in place by the frost and no longer fluttered. It looked very strange. The countdown in my heart was also approaching the end. 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. That person might have thought that saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. They used another new account to send messages in the live broadcast room. "Run, Sebastian, the cold wave is coming, run, run." But they didn't look at the live broadcast room. Lila looked up in confusion because ice crystals seemed to be falling from the sky. "Sebastian, look." Sebastian's expression suddenly turned pale. 6. As the countdown in my heart ended, the blizzard suddenly fell from the sky like a garbage truck dumping garbage. The frost spread on the city walls and was approaching rapidly. When Sebastian looked up, what he saw was a doomsday scene. He didn't hesitate. He pulled up Lila, who was paralyzed on the ground, and ran. Suddenly, a harsh and roaring alarm sounded throughout the city. "Urgent notice, abnormal weather, please transfer indoors immediately. Please transfer indoors immediately, urgent notice, urgent notice." The fireplace that I lit was burning brightly at the moment. I nestled deeper into the sofa and covered myself tightly with the blanket. I continued to watch the live broadcast screen on the iPad. As a live streamer who relies on his looks, Sebastian often goes to the gym to exercise and maintain his figure. At this moment, the threat of death brought out his potential. He actually managed to carry Lila and sprinted 100 meters to the nearby mall. He quickly closed the door. The blizzard was boomed and shut out the door like a wave. Sebastian's hand was stuck to the handrail that had suddenly dropped in temperature, and half of the skin was torn off when he pulled it away. The torn-off skin stuck to the iron handrail, and the blood froze into ice. His palm exposed the subcutaneous tissue, and it was bleeding profusely, looking very terrifying. But Lila moaned loudly first. She had just been pulled and ran with her injured leg, and the wound became even more severe, revealing the white bones. "Sebastian, it hurts so much." Sebastian panted heavily and casually tore some cloth strips to wrap his palm. He opened the live broadcast room. That person was still sending messages continuously. "Just entering the mall is not enough. The temperature will drop soon, and you will freeze to death soon. Hurry up and find something to keep warm." Sebastian didn't have time to think too much. He immediately pulled Lila and wanted to find some warm clothes in the mall, but Lila refused. I can't walk anymore." She pouted and looked at Sebastian, acting coquettishly. Sebastian exhaled deeply. He coaxed her very patiently. "Lila, bear with it for a while. Let's go find some clothes first." "Okay, no, I'm not going. These clothes haven't been washed. My skin is very delicate, and I can't wear these clothes." 7. Lila pouted and turned her head away. I know what she means. She has always liked to create the image of a rich second generation and a delicate young lady. She often took the heirlooms left to me by my parents as her own things and took photos and did live broadcasts with them. When I found out, she would even be so bold as to say, "You don't use them anyway. What's wrong with me using them? I used to be classmates with them, and I had a timid personality. But when the classmates in the class see me wearing them, they will think that I stole them from you. These were originally left to me by my mother." Lila rolled her eyes. "So what? Your mother is dead. Can't I wear these things?" Every time at this moment, Sebastian would stand up. "Okay, Lila, give it back to Natalie quickly. Don't you see that she's almost crying? Just give in to her." I thought he was standing up for me. Now that I think about it, with just a few words, he shifted the blame for Lila's fault onto me. It became that I was about to cry, that I was being unreasonable, and that I wanted Lila to give in to me. Lila impatiently threw the watch that my mother left me towards me. I didn't catch it. The watch was broken and could no longer be repaired. I couldn't help it. I cried out of grievance. Sebastian stroked my head. "Okay, you don't have to blame yourself so much for not catching it. Mom won't blame you." At that time, I was young and thought that Sebastian was really nice and that he would comfort me. but I didn't expect that he was just emotionally manipulating me, PUing me, over a long period of time. He made me constantly blame myself, doubt myself, trust him, and give everything for him. He made me stay away from other relatives and friends, including my only relative, my aunt. I should only focus on him, otherwise, it wouldn't be considered loving him. I did everything he said, even so. He still killed me when I was pregnant with his child on the eve of our wedding. He folded my body and stuffed me head down into the freezer. When I was swallowed up by the cold and darkness, I swore that even if I became a vengeful ghost, I would get my revenge. I would return all this pain to them. 8. Lila was being very difficult and didn't want to move, but Sebastian didn't even utter a word of complaint. He lowered his head and smiled. Okay, my young lady. I'll go find a luxury store for you and pick out a few clean clothes to bring back. How about that? The bullet comments were filled with wails. At a time like this, Sebastian is still indulging Lila. He really spoils her like a little princess. What do you mean spoiling her like a princess? Our Lila is a little princess from a wealthy family to begin with. Help, the doomsday story I read has become a reality. What kind of delicate young lady and gentle male lead is this? I'm so into their relationship. My whole family is into it, some bullet comments timidly said, but Lila's leg is so badly injured, shouldn't her wound be treated first? It was soon drowned out among the large number of comments about shipping them and couldn't be found. The netizen whose father worked at the Meteorological Bureau, for some reason, persistently sent bullet comments trying to save Sebastian. Sebastian. It will really be too late if you don't find clothes quickly. Hurry up, I frowned, feeling speechless. This person really won't give up. The mall blocked out some of the cold. Sebastian quickly put on thick clothes for himself first. Then he smashed open the door of the luxury store. He found a few warm and comfortable clothes for Lila to change into. A trace of worry flashed in Lila's eyes, and she tugged at Sebastian's sleeve. But Sebastian didn't care at all. It's okay. We can just ask Natalie to pay later. Sebastian, you really have no genuine feelings for me at all. Well, now I just want to send you to your death. 9. Sebastian called me. I ignored him and added some firewood to the fireplace before answering. Sebastian, what's the matter? Have you found Lila? Sebastian seemed like a completely different person when he was facing me. All that tenderness, consideration, doting, and indulgence disappeared completely. He said coldly. You drive out now to pick me and Lila up, and bring more money. I looked at the blizzard outside the window. I listened to him report his location. He didn't even remind me to be careful. I sneered in my heart, but my tone was flustered and gentle. But I just saw the news. It said that the mall you're in will soon be submerged by the blizzard, and I can't park my car at the entrance. Why don't you go to another place and wait for me? I'll set off to pick you up right away. I reported the address of the neighboring building to them. Sebastian hesitated for a while. He also knew that the terrain and floor there were higher, so he nodded and agreed. I looked at Sebastian, who was starting to move on the screen. I showed a smile. In the blizzard of my previous life, because the national notice and control were timely, there were few malicious news stories. There was only one piece of news in this city. Just thinking about it now makes the back of my neck feel cold. I changed the permission to speak in the live broadcast room in advance so that only those with a second-level fan badge could post comments. This blocked the reminders from kind-hearted people who accidentally browsed in. I hung up the phone and waited for Sebastian to encounter the surprise I had guided him to. 10. Sebastian, with Lila whining beside him, struggled to walk from the underground connecting area to another building. Lila's wound was bleeding again at this moment. And the smell of blood in such a dim environment is the most likely to attract restless things. She couldn't help but complain. Why hasn't Natalie come yet? Due to the continuous heavy rain for several days, the mall lacked management. Now the lighting in the underground area was dim, and the water had risen to the ankles. The biting cold invaded the body. Sebastian was on high alert. He always felt that he heard heavy gasping sounds coming from the darkness. Lila thought the smell in the underground area was unpleasant. She took out the perfume she had taken from the luxury goods counter and sprayed it on herself and Sebastian. That damned Natalie, it's all her fault, otherwise, how could we have ended up here? She mumbled and hugged Sebastian, acting coquettishly. Sebastian, when she comes later, I must make her suffer. To vent this anger, Sebastian was silent and lowered his voice. Don't mess with Natalie, she's pregnant, Lila shouted loudly. Pregnant? How could she be pregnant? How could she be pregnant with your child? Didn't we agree you couldn't turn our fake relationship into a real one, right? Sebastian covered her mouth. He signaled that she was still on live broadcast and told her not to talk nonsense. In fact, this live broadcast was exciting and thrilling. It did attract a lot of passers-by to watch. After all, in such weather, there were probably only these two crazy people who were still making a fuss and courting death outside. Sebastian communicated with Lila in a low voice using lip language. Others might not be familiar with him, but I could tell that he was saying, "This is all for the property, baby. Now that she's pregnant, Natalie must be eager to get the marriage certificate. After we get the certificate, we'll kill her. And then all the money will be ours, right? Then you can buy whatever bags you want, okay?" 11. Lila was persistent. She continued to shout, "I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it." With her violent movements, the wound opened, and the blood seeped into the water. Sebastian frowned and coaxed her in a low voice, "Lila, be good, okay?" His words stopped abruptly, because a white creature with glowing eyes, it rushed out from behind the nearby pillar at lightning speed and bit Lila's calf. It was an Arctic wolf, at noon in Natalie's apartment. The news reported that the Arctic wolves that had escaped from the city zoo. Lila's scream became distorted. Sebastian grabbed the live broadcast device in Lila's hand and hit the Arctic wolf on the head heavily. The Arctic wolf was in pain and let go of its mouth. He quickly took Lila and ran outside, hiding and dodging along the way. The bullet comments exploded. "What's going on? Is this part of the live broadcast effect?" It doesn't seem like it. It's too realistic, isn't it?" "It's definitely real. I just watched that wolf bite a piece of meat off the female anchor's leg with my own eyes." I sat on the sofa leisurely and took a bite of the semi-finished steak just baked in the air fryer. The aroma of the meat filled the air. It was really delicious. In my previous life, there was only one extremely serious malicious incident in this city during this blizzard. That was that the Arctic wolves that escaped from the zoo tore the people who were stranded in the underground area of a certain building into pieces. In a peaceful era, it's hard for anyone to imagine how much pain this kind of death would bring. Sebastian and Lila were lucky. They didn't have to imagine it. They could experience it for themselves. 12. Sebastian took Lila and kept hiding, but it was useless. They still had the perfume that Lila had just sprayed on them. The strong smell made it impossible for the wolf pack to lose their trail. In a hurry, Sebastian called me, "Natalie, where are you? Come and pick me up quickly." I laughed with satisfaction. I stared at Sebastian and Lila, who were cowering in a small corner on the screen. I kindly reminded them, "At 6 o'clock, the wolf pack is approaching." Sebastian was stunned for a moment. "You're watching the live broadcast. How can you watch the live broadcast while driving?" I smiled maliciously and said, "Oh, really? Then maybe it's because I'm not driving." The firewood in the fireplace crackled. Sebastian felt like the sky was falling. His voice trembled slightly. "Natalie, don't joke around. If you don't come, both Lila and I might die here. Then just die there." I laughed out loud. The wolf pack pounced forward with all their strength, and the live broadcast room went black for a moment. Sebastian struggled to shake off the wolf that had bitten his shoulder. Fortunately, his clothes were thick enough. The wolf pack couldn't bite too deeply, and he only suffered some minor skin injuries. "Natalie, stop joking. Come quickly. Do you have the heart to let the child grow up without a father?" I remembered that in my previous life, he didn't hesitate to stab a sharp blade into my belly that was carrying his child. Tears welled up in my eyes involuntarily, but my voice was still steady. "Sebastian, in this life, I wish you and Lila to follow each other in life and death and end up with no place to be buried." I didn't hesitate to hang up the phone. "Natalie, Natalie," Sebastian shouted, but there would be no one to answer on the other end of the phone anymore. He hid Lila in a room with a window. "Lila, stay here and don't move. I'll lead the wolf pack away, and then I'll come back to pick you up through the window." But Lila held on to him tightly and refused to let go. 13. After experiencing the rainstorm, being trapped, getting injured, the extreme cold of the blizzard, and the Arctic wolves, the string in Lila's mind was on the verge of breaking. She was acting neurotically, holding onto Sebastian's injured palm, regardless of the blood oozing from it. "Don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me." Sebastian could only keep comforting her and even swore that he would never abandon her. It's a pity, once the seed of doubt is planted, it's not so easy to eliminate, in the end. Lila still wouldn't let him go. he had to forcefully break Lila's hand away. Before Sebastian set off, he made a gesture of praying towards the camera. "May God treat my princess kindly." The bullet comments were extremely touched. "Woo woo woo, a pure love warrior. Sebastian, you go ahead. We have witnessed a pure love." Leading the wolf pack away was a life and death situation, relying on his physical fitness. Sebastian finally managed to lead the wolves outside the building. Then he climbed back through the window to pick up Lila. The wolf pack below was eyeing them menacingly. He just showed a gentle smile, but he met Lila's extremely neurotic expression, dragging her injured leg. She walked to the window and pressed his injured hand. Why did you abandon me just now?" A sense of foreboding flashed through Sebastian's mind, and he immediately soothed Lila. "Lila, I'm here to pick you up now, aren't I?" But Lila didn't believe him. "You're lying to me. You're lying to me. You said you wouldn't have a relationship with Natalie. You said you wouldn't turn our fake relationship into a real one. She's pregnant now. You're reluctant to part with her. You think I'm an eyesore." The snow fell into the room, and Lila forcefully pushed Sebastian's hand off the window ledge. Without support, Sebastian fell down. Soon the Arctic wolves surrounded him and bit him. "Lila, save me, Lila." The blood stained the snow and spilled onto the phone camera. I looked at the live broadcast screen. All I could see was a sea of red, and Lila walked away from the window expressionlessly. 14. Sebastian was being bitten by the wolf pack. He held the phone and kept asking the viewers in the live broadcast room for help. "Save me, they are eating my face." The Arctic wolves gnawed at his whole body. Soon the meat on one side of his face was bitten off. The white bones were exposed, with flesh and blood sticking to them. "Help, Natalie, save me." He trembled and pressed the shortcut key to call me. "Natalie, come and save me quickly, I'm at." He groaned in pain. He tried his best to beat the wolves with his hands, trying to slow down the speed at which they were eating him. "If you don't come to save me, I will really die. Natalie, stop being angry and come to save me quickly." I held the phone and chuckled. "Sebastian, don't you think about why it's so coincidental that I asked you to wait for me at the building where there happened to be Arctic wolves? It's you." Sebastian was breathing more out than in, but he was still so angry at my words that he let out a loud scream. I hung up the phone. I continued to watch the Arctic wolves biting his body, because the scene was too bloody and uncomfortable. The cyber police blocked the live broadcast room. I opened Lila's live broadcast. She was panting heavily, dragging her disabled body and running outside. She was wrapped in thick clothes. She tried to stay as far away as possible from the pursuit of the Arctic wolves. She was probably doing the live broadcast to better report her location and make it easier to be rescued. I looked at Lila, who was burying her head and hurrying on the screen. Suddenly, I thought, was she really because of a mental breakdown that she pushed Sebastian down just now? The Arctic wolves were fierce and could break down the door. If she followed Sebastian, the probability of successful escape was not high, and she might even be left behind by Sebastian because of her leg injury. But if she took the initiative to leave Sebastian behind and let him attract the attention of all the wolves, even if Lila dragged her injured leg, the probability of her survival could be greatly increased. Maybe she did it on purpose, who knows? I closed the iPad, got up, and heated a cup of milk for myself. I called my aunt. She still had lingering fear. "Fortunately, I listened to you and went home as soon as possible. Otherwise, I was doing business outside, and I'm afraid I would have been in great danger by now." I smiled and said, "Yes, fortunately, it's not too late." 15. In such extreme weather, the only thing you can always trust is the country, because Sebastian and Lila had been live broadcasting all the time. Their information spread on the internet and became very popular. The next time I saw the news about Sebastian and Lila, it was that they had been rescued. It's a pity that their injuries were so severe that they both ended up in the ICU. In the apocalypse of the blizzard, no matter how powerful the country was, it couldn't make the hospital operate as usual. Both of them developed permanent health problems due to the untimely treatment. A month passed, and the blizzard gradually stopped. The situation was gradually brought under control, and life returned to normal. Lila's act of pushing Sebastian was recorded on the internet. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison for attempted murder and was put behind bars, and her leg, due to the untimely treatment, could only be amputated. I sorted out the messy things about the two of them into a post and put it on the internet. Sebastian's fans all knew that Natalie, was his assistant, so what I said was particularly credible. I used to manage the fan group, the live broadcast room, do the shooting and post-production, do the makeup, and handle business negotiations. Later, when he achieved some success in live broadcasting, he immediately brought Lila into the industry. He was extremely intimate with her in front of the camera. The fans were not without doubts that I was Sebastian's girlfriend and that Lila was the mistress who was interfering. But they didn't want to believe that Sebastian was a complete scumbag. They had once liked this person passionately and sincerely, and this person didn't deserve their love at all, so, their love turned into hatred. They widely spread the post I had sorted out on the internet. They cursed Sebastian as a scumbag. How about you, the anchor? Return some of my money, Sebastian. You can just bear the disaster for all of us. I'm serious. I really feel sorry for Natalie. She has money and looks. But I don't know why she was entangled by these two dirty people. Looking at the end of these two despicable people now, I can only say that God has eyes. I showed him the messages left by the fans while he was lying in bed, lingering with his illness. His live broadcasting career was now in ruins. Sebastian's internal organs were incomplete due to being gnawed on by the Arctic wolves. He had also been exposed in the icy and snowy weather for a long time, and his muscle tissues were frostbitten. It was already a miracle that he could survive. He sobbed and said, Why didn't you stop me from saving Lila in this life? I was surprised. Sebastian had also been reborn, but what's the use of being reborn at this time? Everything about him was ruined. His reputation, career, body, and relationships. He had nothing left. All that was waiting for him was a life as rotten as a maggot. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but smile. Of course it's because I can't wait to see you feel as desperate in the cold darkness as I did in my previous life. His eyes widened. It was as if he had learned something incredible. You are also. Perhaps before I said these words, he was still thinking that I could afford his medical treatment and love him and treat him well for the rest of my life. Ha, how audacious he was. I smiled and stood up, preparing to leave. Sebastian tried to catch up with me. But he was bound to the spot by layers of medical tubes. He could only stretch out his hands feebly. Sebastian's mother rushed to the hospital and threw herself on him, crying and making a scene. I told you not to be with that little slut Lila. Look what she's done to you. She pressed down on his oxygen tube. It made his face turn red from lack of oxygen. Then his mother rushed over and tried to hold my hand. Our Sebastian will depend on you in the future, Natalie. You can't abandon him after leading him on. I sneered and shook her off. You're so poor and shabby. Yet you still want to cling to me. In your dreams, Sebastian's mother saw the arrogance of the wealthy in me for the first time. She had always been a bully to the weak and a coward in the face of the strong. At this moment, she could only cower and wail on the hospital floor. I ignored them and walked out directly. 16. My aunt introduced new blind date partners to me again. And they were all high quality and handsome, but I politely declined all of them. The failed love experience in my previous life made me afraid. I really didn't want to meet another Sebastian. My aunt sighed. If you don't want to be in a relationship, then don't. I promised your mother that I would take good care of you. I'm just worried that when I'm old and die in the future, you will have no relatives left in this world. I nodded. Understanding that she was the only one in the world who worried about me and loved me, I must have been completely blinded by greed or foolishness, to have listened to Sebastian's words wholeheartedly and distanced myself from her. In my previous life, if she had still been alive, she would never have allowed Sebastian to hurt me like that. Fortunately, I still have the chance to do it all over again. To prevent all the tragedies from happening, I clung to my aunt and kept acting coquettishly. I begged her to put down her work and take me on a trip abroad. She smiled and poked my nose. If I don't earn more money, who will support you, you little good-for-nothing, in the future? But she still agreed to my request. 17. 3 years later, my aunt and I went on a trip to Europe again. In the evening, we strolled through the water city of Venice. On the narrow canals, the boatmen singing drifted with the wind, melodious and lingering, making people feel relaxed and happy. The ancient buildings on both sides of the canal were reflected in the water, swaying gently with the ripples. It seemed that the blizzard hadn't left any trace on this world. We sat in a cafe, enjoying the breeze. There were still 3 hours. 1. The victim Lila, who was once sentenced to 3 years in prison for attempted murder, was unfortunately killed in a retaliatory attack not long after the end of her sentence. I took an extra look. It was Sebastian who killed Lila. who had just been released from prison. Sebastian had become a useless person after the blizzard. Unable to afford the high medical expenses, his mother sold their house and took him back to their rural hometown, because she felt that her life was dragged down by her son. Sebastian's mother would often beat and scold him. Perhaps Sebastian had also thought about taking revenge on me. But I had always lived in a wealthy area with extremely strict security, and I ate and lived with my aunt. He didn't have the slightest chance to get close to me. On the contrary, Lila, who had been released from prison, was much easier to target. The news was accompanied by a blurry video. Sebastian was choking Lila's neck and shouting, "It's you, you've ruined my life." Lila's face turned purple, and she kept struggling. Whatever she grabbed in her hands, she didn't hesitate to smash it on the back of Sebastian's head. The two of them kept grappling with each other. In the end, they both fell into a river covered with thin ice in winter. They both lost their lives. After reading the news, I sneered. My aunt took a sip of coffee. "What are you laughing at?" I didn't answer. As night fell, the lights were like stars from the sky falling to the mortal world. They draped a mysterious and romantic veil over this city on the water. Everything was so beautiful. It was time for that cold and dark past to completely fade away. Story 2. Returning to the day before the apocalypse began, I started to hoard supplies frantically. However, the items I hoarded were quite unusual. While others stockpiled food and daily necessities, I stockpiled blood. This was because, once the apocalypse broke out, zombies roamed everywhere, and I was to become one of them. After waking up from a nightmare, I was unable to calm down for a long time, with gruesome images filling my mind, to verify whether I had merely had a nightmare or had indeed experienced the apocalypse and then returned to the day before it erupted. I spent an hour confirming that I had indeed been reborn, right back to the day before the apocalypse. This meant that by midnight tonight, I would turn into a zombie, a conscious one. During my time as a zombie, I pondered a question: is it a blessing or a curse to be a sentient zombie? This dilemma was manifested in the fact that despite being famished, I would rather crouch in a corner than feast on humans. Eventually devising ways to hunt small animals, I was considered a disgrace among zombies. Nevertheless, given another chance, I decided to continue being a disgraceful zombie. Without further ado, I began hoarding supplies in earnest, vowing to be a dignified and respectable zombie. My deceased parents had left me quite a fortune, including a large comprehensive supermarket. Of course, as a zombie, the supermarket wasn't much use, but it could serve as my shelter. I immediately sent all the employees away under the guise of business restructuring and locked the supermarket doors. Then, using most of my life savings, I bought a significant amount of plasma, firearms, ammunition, and bulletproof vests from the black market. While waiting for these supplies to arrive at the supermarket, I spent a large sum to reinforce the doors and windows of the building. After all, it was well known that in the apocalypse, the threat wasn't just from zombies, but also from human nature. My supermarket would be highly sought after in the apocalypse, certainly attracting many people, so it was essential to take precautions. Some might ask, since the supermarket is so conspicuous, why not find a more hidden place to live? Because there wasn't enough time. Where could I find a spacious place with a cold storage and a generator in such a short time? I had to make do with what I had. As the saying goes, money talks. Before long, a team of dozens of workers began to reinforce the doors and windows of the supermarket. I also went to the poultry market and bought many small animals. After all, the plasma supply was limited, and I didn't know how long my zombie life would last. I couldn't afford to sit back and run out of resources, given the supermarket's abundant supplies and spacious area. It wasn't a bad idea to set aside a space to raise poultry, considering it as food prepared for myself. I also spent a good deal of money hiring a breeding expert to come to the supermarket and set up a small breeding base for me. I even earnestly learned quite a bit about breeding, as it was crucial to keep myself fed. As for the strange looks from others, I completely ignored them, remaining calm. After all, the apocalypse was imminent, and even if they became suspicious and called the police, there wouldn't be enough time for an investigation. Fortunately, the supermarket wasn't located in a busy downtown area but in a newly developed town, where the streets were sparsely populated and hardly any passers-by noticed the activity around the supermarket. Once everything was ready, night had fallen. There was no time for sorrow or reflection as I hurriedly arranged for people to convert the manager's office on the third floor of the supermarket into my bedroom. After the workers left, I looked around the spacious bedroom and felt a great sense of relief. The bedroom had everything: bed, wardrobe, mirror, TV, computer, and even a bathroom with a large bathtub. Even as a female zombie, I appreciated beauty. If there were conditions to make myself look neat and pretty, I would use them, and if not, I would create them. Glancing at the time, it was 10 o'clock at night. I started busily downloading countless songs and TV shows again. Just in case the apocalypse left me with too much idle time. Time ticked by minute, and midnight was fast approaching. Standing by the window and gazing into the deep night, I couldn't help feeling nervous. Nobody knew how this catastrophe had started, but at the stroke of 12, some people began to mutate into zombies. They spread the zombie virus wildly by biting and preying on other humans. Unfortunately, I was among the first batch to mutate. I checked the time on my phone. 5 seconds to midnight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Almost simultaneously, I felt a severe dizziness. My vision darkened, my limbs went limp and weak, and I collapsed to the floor, losing consciousness. When I came to, I knew I had successfully mutated into a zombie. Trying to move my hand was a bit of an effort. I opened my mouth, but only a hoarse and grating noise came out. I tried to move my feet but failed. This feeling was damnably familiar. Early-stage zombie movements are sluggish, but they gradually become more agile, so I calmly waited for my body to adapt. Since there was no rush, I don't know how much time passed, but once I could move freely, I stood up, placed a chair by the window, and sat down to surf the internet on my phone. At first, there were only a few mentions of zombies online, but gradually, they increased. Meanwhile, the once quiet and empty streets began to echo with haunting screams. Peeking out, I saw a disheveled man running frantically down the street, chased relentlessly by a scantily clad female zombie. Soon, more and more people were fleeing, and there were even more zombies. As a zombie, my hearing and sight had sharpened. Licking my teeth, they seemed to have grown sharper too. I could clearly see some exhausted people getting knocked down by zombies, who then bit off large chunks of flesh, blood spurting and splashing over the zombies' faces, making them appear even more horrifying and vile under the streetlights. With only their glistening white teeth visible, more zombies quickly swarmed over, completely overwhelming the people screaming in despair on the ground. Watching this scene, I felt a fierce and primal urge surge within me, as if a voice in my head was tempting me to feed. I quickly turned away, covering my face with my hands to calm down. It was a natural zombie instinct, not easy to suppress, but luckily, I was an experienced zombie, so the urge passed quickly. Looking out the window again, the number of zombies now clearly had the overwhelming advantage. The sparsely populated new district was like this, and one could only imagine what hell on earth the city center had become. I felt a bit sad, as this was a disaster for all humanity. At the same time, I felt somewhat relieved. My parents had passed away early, I had no close relatives or friends, and was used to being alone. At this moment, I didn't have to worry about the safety of others, and could afford to while away time in a supermarket. Gradually, the noise outside ceased, with only a few zombies aimlessly wandering the streets. With nothing more to watch, I got up and went to the mirror to examine my zombie self. There wasn't much difference, still had a nose and 2 eyes, though my skin was paler. An eerie, lifeless white with a hint of gray. The rest of my body looked just the same as before. The only drawback was that when I opened my mouth, I could only produce a harsh, unpleasant, heh, but if I kept my mouth shut, I still looked remarkably similar to my old self. I doubt anyone could recognize me as a zombie. Bored out of my mind, I turned on the TV to kill time. It was flooded with news of a zombie outbreak, urgently advising everyone to stay home and wait for rescue, and not to go outside. The night seemed especially long. As a zombie, I didn't need to sleep, so I just sat there until dawn. During the first few days, I lived quite freely and carelessly, wandering through the supermarket every day, feeding the little chickens and ducks, and while munching on chips and popcorn, I followed the drama series, Empresses in the Palace. Ugh, how disgusting. After a few chips, I couldn't help but spit them out. They tasted like wax in my mouth. I couldn't swallow them. I tried taking a sip of Sprite next, which went down easily enough, but it was tasteless and felt like nothing. Ah, what a waste of all the supplies in the supermarket, guarded by a zombie like me, only to sit there until they expire and spoil. Then, I heard a noise from downstairs. although it was very faint. How could it escape the ears of a zombie like me? I went to the window and glanced out, spotting over a dozen men gathered around the supermarket entrance. They must have come looking for supplies too, as they were the third group to do so. Landon, is this the supermarket? It should be. I heard it was a large supermarket, but there's no sign or anything. It really doesn't look like a supermarket. Hearing this, I snorted to myself. I had anticipated this and had already removed the supermarket sign and even taken it off various online shopping platforms to avoid drawing attention. But I didn't expect the supermarket to completely disappear without a trace. Here they were, still coming in droves. Since we're here, we might as well go in and check it out, right? The building is so big, even if it's not a supermarket, there must be plenty of supplies. I think this is the supermarket. There's no other building around that could be associated with one, but the doors are tightly locked. We can't sneak in quietly. Stop the chatter and hurry up. Find a way to open the door before we end up attracting zombies. From behind the window, I listened to their whispers without worry. My place had been fortified so well that it was nearly impregnable to casual intruders, so I comfortably sat by the window, thoroughly entertained by their attempts to break into the supermarket door. Far more interesting than watching TV, but soon, I couldn't stay calm. When the group realized they couldn't quietly open the supermarket doors, they set their sights on the windows of the third floor. I had already sealed the second floor windows with bricks. Damn, we'd need a bomb to break through this door. It seems someone fortified this place. Looks like there really are good things here. Haha, our trip wasn't in vain. Hey fourth brother, aren't you a climbing expert? Can this little height stump you? But I don't have my full gear. Stop wasting time and figure out a way to climb up, or we'll starve to death sooner or later. Now, I was worried. I never thought someone would actually try to climb up the exterior. Although I had installed bulletproof glass and anti-theft barriers, I couldn't just let them climb up. No way. I had to think of something. I glanced outside the window again and saw a man starting to climb up using simple climbing gear. At this point, I lost all interest in spectating. I turned around, left the bedroom, grabbed 2 beer bottles, and swiftly climbed up to the rooftop. Then, moving to the side, I aimed at the car parked below and threw the 2 beer bottles down. The moment the beer bottles shattered on the car, they emitted a crisp breaking sound, followed immediately by the car alarm blaring. The sudden noisy disruption in an otherwise quiet environment was jarring and anxiety-inducing. Though to me it sounded like music from heaven, I knew that my zombie brethren were about to swarm in for the kill, so I excitedly made my way downstairs to witness the commotion. Back in the bedroom, I looked out the window, and lo and behold, the climber had already reached the second floor. Scrambling chaotically, his face pale with fear, looking at the others, it was clear they understood that the endless blare of car alarms would soon draw the zombies in, causing them to panic. Landon, we need to run, the zombies are coming. But what about the fourth guy? Landon, wait for me, I'm going to jump, don't leave me behind. The man hanging from the second floor cried out in terror, don't come down, just stay there or keep climbing, zombies can't climb, you're safe there. Can this really work? The fourth guy realized they were planning to abandon him and panicked. Please, I'm begging you, I'm scared. He began to cry, but the people below were already in deep trouble, unable to save themselves, let alone risk their lives to rescue him. Even spouses would fend for themselves in dire times, let alone temporary companions. Moments of life and death truly test human nature, and there, not far away, I saw zombies crazily running towards us. No one cared about the fourth guy anymore. They all scrambled to escape, their fear of zombies and the will to survive evidently unlocking their utmost potential, even outrunning the zombies. However, no matter how fast they were, they couldn't outrun the zombies coming from all directions, and soon, one man at the back was devoured. Watching the zombies chase the group further away, I shifted my gaze back to the fourth guy on the second floor. Below him, a horde of zombies gathered, their grotesque faces waving their arms, trying to pull him down, and some zombies inside even attempted to climb the wall, though ineptly. They were just crazily trying to devour the fourth guy. Seeing those blood-stained, ragged zombies only capable of roaring with their gaping mouths, I couldn't help but feel disgusted. It was almost unbearable to watch. Thankfully I was a conscious zombie, not the mindless type like those downstairs. Looking back at the fourth guy, he was so terrified that he had peed himself. I clearly saw his urine streaming down his pants. dripping onto the faces and into the open mouths of the zombies below. The sight made me grimace in disgust. That was just too gross. The fourth guy couldn't care less about his dignity now. Having already peed, he just started crying helplessly. Paralyzed with fear, he no longer had the strength to climb, only managing to cling to the wall, shivering. Thus, the zombies and the fourth guy were at a standoff for quite a while until he gradually calmed down. Watching his expression, I guessed he was considering climbing up again. Indeed, trapped in such a dire situation. Going down was impossible, but just hanging there wasn't realistic either. The only option was to climb up. Perhaps he might even manage to escape into the building. It seemed I needed to think of something. Should I go up to the roof and drop something on him? Just as I hesitated, the zombies below seemed to lose patience and started climbing up in a frenzy. Then, I witnessed a shocking scene. Those zombies started stacking up like a human ladder, climbing higher and higher. It reminded me of a scene from the movie World War Z, where zombies piled up against high walls just like that, eventually overtaking the fortified city. I hadn't expected to see a scene from a movie play out in reality. I sighed. It seemed I no longer needed to come up with a plan. The zombies had already figured it out. Once again, the fourth guy was terrified beyond belief, far more scared than before. His whole body trembling, he wanted to climb up, but his limbs wouldn't cooperate. And in his panic, he nearly fell, and the zombies were getting closer. Help, please help me, I don't want to die, the fourth guy cried out in despair, and I couldn't help but feel a bit of pity for him. However, I will not lend a hand. I am neither a human nor a saint. Saving him today would only bring disaster upon myself. So, I quietly watched as the zombies climbed higher and higher, one of them successfully reaching out and grabbing fourth brother. Ah! Fourth brother's scream was terrifying and shrill. I couldn't bear to watch what happened next. It was too gruesome. The thick smell of blood made me feel nauseous, but it also stirred a gnawing hunger within me. In response, I stuffed a handful of popcorn into my mouth and chewed and swallowed aggressively, as if in retaliation. When all was quiet outside the window, I peered out again. Fourth brother had been completely devoured by the zombies. The horde had dissipated. And now only a few zombies lingered around the base of the building. The entrance and walls of the supermarket were filthy and stained with blood, and remnants of human bones and hair were visible. I found it disgusting, but then it occurred to me that this might actually be a good thing. The more rundown and bloodstained the place looked, the less likely it would attract others' attention. After this incident, I realized that a clean supermarket entrance simply wouldn't do. I needed to find a way to keep zombies around the supermarket regularly to deter others from coming too close. Making noise was not practical, as the car downstairs had already been destroyed by the zombies, and its noise had long since ceased. So, I decided to use blood instead. Blood has a deadly attraction for zombies. They flock to the scent of it. At midnight, I took several bags of blood to the rooftop. After a while, a faint smell of blood wafted around the supermarket, drawing zombies gradually towards it. Feeling quite good about myself, I suddenly felt an impulse to shout out loud, so I didn't hold back. I stood with my hands on my hips, opened my mouth wide, and shouted forcefully, "Hee hee." After shouting, before I could even finish laughing, the zombies below also began to scream, echoing through the night, which was particularly eerie. What was going on? Instinctively, I leaned out to look and saw the crowd of zombies below all looking up in my direction. I could clearly see their decayed, flesh-rotting faces, and their eyes, some of which were severely damaged or just empty sockets, and without exception, those lifeless eyes were all staring straight at me. I was truly startled by the scene before me. My scalp felt like it was about to explode, and a chill swept over my body. In a panic, I fled back to my room. After returning to my bedroom, I sat on the sofa, trying to calm myself down, although I was a zombie too. Being stared at by so many at once was something I couldn't stay calm about. After a while, I looked out the window again and saw that many zombies were still looking up towards the rooftop, while others had returned to normal, wandering around following the scent of blood in the air. I watched those few zombies looking at the rooftop until they finally lowered their heads, and I could breathe a sigh of relief, but I was left with a nagging question. Why had my shout attracted the attention of the zombies? Looking at the aimlessly wandering zombies, their voices hoarse and broken, they showed no interest in their peers. This issue made me resolve to keep quiet in the future. Otherwise, I had no better solution. I certainly didn't have the courage to run into the crowd of zombies to experiment and find answers. I had been socially anxious as a human, and being a zombie certainly hadn't turned me into a social butterfly. After calming down, I opened my smartphone to check the news. The entire urban area was in chaos, with many survivors posting gruesome and brutal videos online. The scent of death seemed to hang over the entire city, oppressively so, and the situation was no better elsewhere in the world. The disaster had erupted globally at the same time, and humanity was almost completely devastated. I couldn't help but feel a sincere sense of relief, actually. Becoming a zombie isn't really a bad thing when you think about it pragmatically. At least I don't have to spend every day in fear, constantly struggling to survive. Plus, I've got this huge supermarket all to myself, which should keep me safe and sound for a good while. After being alone for a long time, loneliness inevitably sets in, so I started finding ways to pass the time. For instance, I'd grab a bunch of cosmetics from the beauty section of the supermarket and follow online makeup tutorials to doll myself up, or I'd try playing dress-up games following videos. One day, I decided to go for a sexy look. After applying a stunningly seductive makeup, I was thrilled to rummage through the clothing section and picked out several sexy little dresses. I was really looking forward to this dress-up session, not to boast, but my figure is genuinely impressive. Long legs, a slim waist, and curves in all the right places. So, I tried on the dresses one by one, and finally chose a crimson spaghetti strap mini dress. This dress barely covered the back with just thin crisscrossing red straps, and the front had a deep V-neck adorned with a layer of thin, nearly transparent red lace, subtly revealing yet concealing. The hem just barely covered my bottom. This dress was over-the-top sexy, but it was exactly to my liking. Why not try it, right? No one was around to see. And it wouldn't hurt anyone. All the windows were covered with one-way mirror film, and the curtains were drawn. Before slipping into the new dress, I indulged in a luxurious bath, stretching freely in a bathtub full of bubbles. After playing with the bubbles, I pretentiously applied a face mask, and elegantly sipped a red liquid from a goblet placed next to the tub. However, the red liquid wasn't wine, it was blood. I resisted the urge to gulp it down, savoring it slowly, sip by sip, until the glass was empty. Then, I comfortably closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. Ah, what comfort! Was I ever this comfortable when I was alive? Perhaps it was too comfortable because it made me let my guard down. So when I abruptly opened my eyes realizing something was off, it was already too late. I saw a young man leaning against the bathroom door, looking straight at me. In an instant, I couldn't help but tremble. That young man with the perfect face, I had seen him in my past life as a zombie. He was a ruthless demon who wouldn't blink an eye while killing zombies. Yes, to me, a zombie, he was indeed a demon. Under such immense shock, my first instinct was to scream, but the little rationality I had left made me cover my mouth tightly with my hands. How could I even scream now? Any sound would just come out as a hoarse hiss, blatantly exposing my identity as a zombie. That would surely be the end of me. Terrified, I kept my mouth shut, staring at the man by the door. He stood casually with his hands in his pockets, his deep and sharp gaze fixed on me, yet his lips curled into a subtle, indescribable smile. I was petrified, unable to voice my questions, so we just stared at each other. I was internally grateful for the layer of bubble foam, otherwise, this rascal might have seen everything. Is this supermarket yours? He finally spoke, his voice deep and surprisingly pleasant. I nodded. He continued to stare at me and asked, "Is there anyone else here?" I shook my head. I looked at him with genuine fear, completely baffled. Are we really just going to chat like this? I'm still naked. Isn't that a bit impolite? Even zombies have their dignity. The man seemed thoughtful as he looked at me, then asked, mute. I was taken aback, just about to deny it, but then had a stroke of inspiration and nodded in agreement. Being mute is great, as it means I don't have to speak and reveal my identity. In my heart, I was 1,000,000% sure that if this handsome guy in front of me found out I was a zombie, I'd be dead on the spot. Come out after you've put on your clothes. After dropping this line, the handsome guy left and thoughtfully closed the door behind him. Tearlessly, I stared at the overly sexy red dress, seriously considering the chances of survival if I jumped out the window. How on earth did that damn demon get in here without anyone noticing? Oh God, are you messing with me? When I hesitantly stood in front of the handsome guy dressed in the provocative red dress, I felt this was the biggest social death scene of my life. The handsome guy was clearly not expecting me to come out looking like this and was taken aback for a moment. Just then, the bedroom door was pushed open from outside. But before anyone could enter, the handsome guy quickly grabbed something from the table and threw it. With a loud bang, the door was slammed shut. "Wait outside," the handsome guy called out to the person outside the door, biting my lip in silence, furious but unable to speak. The object that the handsome guy had thrown was my iPad, now shattered on the floor. When I looked at the handsome guy with a sorrowful expression, he misunderstood, thinking I was thanking him for blocking the person outside, and generously said, "No need to thank me." My face expressionless, I twitched the corner of my mouth, thinking I really should thank you. Damn it all, the handsome guy wanted to ask me something, but since I was mute, he added me on Instagram instead. If this had happened back when I was human, I would have been thrilled, but now I was terrified, my hands shaking so much I could barely hold my phone. No matter how handsome, life is more precious. After tremblingly accepting his friend request, I received his first message. "My name is Lawson. We're just here to look for supplies. No harm intended, don't worry." Looking at his message, I hesitated for a moment, then decided to tell the truth. "Actually, I can speak. I'm just mute, not deaf, Lawson." But I wasn't in the mood to mock his foolishness. After a brief thought, I made a decision. "I can share some of the supermarket supplies with you, but you must leave immediately and promise not to bother me again." I sent the message nervously, watching Lawson, hoping he would take what he could and leave. After all, the supermarket stuff was practically useless to me. As long as I could get rid of this plague, the goods were just material things. Lawson's expression stiffened for a moment when he read the word bother, and he looked over, not very friendly. Facing Lawson's dark gaze, I shivered involuntarily and took a step back, tentatively sending another message. "What's wrong? Is it too little for you? Then I'll give you half of the supermarket's goods. Just please leave quickly." "Okay, that's a lot of goods given the size of the supermarket. I hope this jerk doesn't fail to see the good deal." Lawson raised an eyebrow at me, and to my surprise, he chuckled, the aloofness in his eyes instantly melting. I looked at him puzzled, not understanding what he found amusing. The supermarket was left to me by my parents, and I'm the only one left in my family. I have the authority, don't worry. I wanted to say something more, but before I could type, I sensed something was wrong. Lawson noticed it too, his lazy demeanor suddenly turning serious. We both hurried to the window and looked out. Under the dim moonlight, several people were stealthily approaching the supermarket. Their movements were very light, afraid of alerting the zombies nearby. However, I had already gotten a good look at the faces of the leaders. These individuals appeared strong and fierce, with sharp knives in their hands and numerous firearms hanging on their bodies, clearly not ordinary people. Among them was a familiar face, Landon, who had visited before. This realization made my heart sink. This aggressive group was obviously brought by Landon. Thump, 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 a soft knock came from the bedroom door, followed by a low voice saying, "Boss, there's a situation." From the sound of it, there was only one person outside the bedroom, meaning Lawson had come with just one companion. If Lawson weren't here, I might have been able to lure the surrounding zombies to us, but in Lawson's presence, I dared not make any rash moves. If I slipped up in front of him, I would not live to see another second. However, after witnessing those people swiftly killing zombies, I couldn't hold back anymore and grabbed Lawson's arm. To be honest, if I were to fall into the hands of those brutal thugs, would rather cling to Lawson's legs. Lawson looked at my hand on his arm with a hint of surprise, then glanced at me. Somehow, his gaze seemed profound and strange. At that moment, the group stopped about 500 meters from the supermarket. The leader, a man with a scarred face, gestured to someone beside him, and then a few people emerged from behind, each carrying another person. They tiptoed to a corner, put down the people they were carrying, and quickly retreated. I watched those laid down at the corner, their eyes tightly shut, not knowing whether they were dead or alive, unable to figure out what the scarred man intended to do. But I soon got my answer. The scarred man took a crossbow, aimed it at the people in the supermarket corner, and shot. The hit person groaned, waking up and moaning unconsciously in severe pain. Their moans instantly attracted the nearby zombies, who roared and pounced on the people on the ground. In an instant, the quiet night was filled with heart-wrenching screams. I watched in disbelief as the scarred man and his group used crossbows and silencers to shoot the zombies. Were they really using living people as targets? Looking at the group led by the scarred man, I felt nauseous, thinking they were more terrifying and hateful than the zombies. At the same time, I realized that I might not be able to save the supermarket. The supermarket, hastily fortified in half a day, could fend off individual coveters, but not the beastly ferocity of the scarred man and his group. I looked at Lawson, who also appeared solemn, and sent him a message. It looks like you'll leave empty-handed too. You should go. Lawson gave me a puzzled look. I smiled and continued texting. Even if I have to destroy the supermarket, I won't let them have their way. I turned to leave, but Lawson stopped me. It doesn't seem like it's time to burn bridges yet. He spoke calmly, his demeanor composed, seemingly unbothered by the imminent crisis. I looked down at my wrist, which he was holding, and after a moment of shock, I tried to pull away. My body lacked the warmth of a living human, only the coldness of death, and I feared he might notice something was wrong, but his attention seemed to be focused downstairs. He didn't even spare me a glance, and I quietly breathed a sigh of relief. I'm going downstairs to hold them off. I didn't know what Lawson planned to do, but I couldn't just stand idly by, so I instinctively followed. Lawson stood at the door, his aloof gaze sweeping over me. He didn't stop me but calmly reminded, "You should change your clothes first." I froze, then looked at the mirror, overwhelmed by embarrassment. After hurriedly changing into proper clothes and reaching the rooftop, I found Lawson already taking action. He fired 2 shots with a silenced pistol at the man with the scar and his group. The 2 men hit by the bullets almost instinctively cried out in pain, instantly revealing their whereabouts. Thousands of zombies, attracted by the noise, charged towards them relentlessly. The scarred man and his group frantically attacked the zombies with their weapons, but against these insensible, undeterred creatures, even their fiercest attacks were futile. In a short while, the scarred man's group suffered heavy losses. With only a few survivors pushed back to the entrance of the supermarket, watching the fierce-looking scarred man, I suddenly had a bad feeling. Sure enough, in the next second, I saw him pull out a grenade, intending to blow up the supermarket door, but Lawson was quicker and shot the man with a scar in the blink of an eye. Watching the scarred man fall with disbelief, I quietly increased the distance between Lawson and myself. This man was too dangerous. The death of the scarred man sent the few remaining into a panic, quickly losing their will to fight. Some took their own lives, others were devoured. Although Lawson was terrifying, he did save the supermarket, so I generously offered him half of the supermarket supplies. "Thank you." After receiving such a significant favor from me, Lawson's expression finally warmed a bit, and he even managed a polite thank you. I lowered my head and typed earnestly, "You're welcome. Take the supplies and get as far away as possible." After sending the message, I panicked at the word "get," realizing my hands had moved faster than my brain. I knew Lawson had seen the message because I felt his gaze bearing down on me like Mount Tai, filling me with dread and regret. Under this invisible pressure, I reluctantly retracted the message and tried to salvage the situation by sending another. What I meant was, "After parting ways, may we never meet again." Yes. That was the sentiment. Lawson stared at me for a while, making my skin crawl, so I stepped back several paces. "What are you doing?" The man accompanying Lawson looked at us, puzzled. I spread my hands, indicating my confusion as well. I was already being so generous, yet he still looked at me like that. Did he expect me to pack up the entire supermarket for him? Lawson withdrew his gaze and signaled to the man. Then they both headed downstairs. As the man left, he amiably greeted me. "Hello. Beautiful, my name is Lu Ning. Pleased to meet you." Well, one does not slap a smiling face. I managed a strained smile, hoping they would just leave quickly. Lawson's efficiency was indeed formidable. That evening, 3 large trucks arrived and swept away a large pile of supplies like autumn leaves. I sat on a small stool on the rooftop, watching the trucks stir up the zombies around them, but like a solid wall of iron and copper, the trucks remained unmoved amidst the tide of zombies. Watching them, I felt a twinge of envy. If only my supermarket was as secure. I chugged most of a bottle of Sprite and then belched loudly, expressing my dissatisfaction. The next second, I was startled by a sudden shadow beside me, belching even louder. This person moved so silently. I stealthily glared at Lawson beside me, sinking into thought. As a zombie, my senses are sharp. But why didn't I notice Lawson's presence? No wonder he caught me off guard while I was showering. It wasn't my carelessness, but perhaps this man is no ordinary human, mysterious enough to be frightening. Lawson stood beside me for a while. Soon, the trucks were loaded and left. I watched dazedly as the trucks disappeared into the night sky. Did they forget something? The plague-like Lawson was still standing next to me. Lawson didn't leave on the truck for a reason. He had a helicopter coming to pick him up. Thanks. Consider this a favor owed to you. If you ever need help in the future, just contact me. For the first time, Lawson showed a friendly and pleasing demeanor. After the flattery took me by surprise, I didn't forget to send a message to confirm. Help with anything? Lawson looked at me, a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. Yes, but only once, so use it wisely. Me, seriously, couldn't you be a bit more generous without dying? As Lawson was about to leave, he added, be careful with everything, never let your guard down. I forced a smile. Feeling somewhat annoyed, after watching the helicopter take off, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Finally, I could relax a bit, but just as I was about to head downstairs, a loud bang echoed from the distant sky. I instinctively looked over and was shocked to see Lawson's helicopter crash. My emotions were mixed. Lawson, who had just warned me to be cautious, had now crashed himself. It was ironic, indeed. Looking down at the zombies, I noticed they were already attracted by the explosion and were rushing towards the site. This made me feel even more conflicted. I didn't know if Lawson was dead, but the odds were not in his favor. Even if he was still alive, he would likely soon become a meal for the zombies. The thought of such a handsome guy being devoured by zombies made me feel it was a terrible waste. Considering he had helped me a lot, my heart grew heavier. What was I to do? While blending in with the zombies and running in the opposite direction of the crash, I questioned my own impulsiveness. I wasn't usually someone who went out of their way to help others, yet here I was, risking my life to find Lawson, who was a professional at killing zombies. This question lingered in my mind until I found Lawson after much effort. I checked his breathing with my index finger, and finding he was still alive, I sighed, thinking of it as repaying a favor. After all, he was no ordinary person. Saving his life now could make things easier if we met again, right? Even if I became a zombie, he couldn't possibly ignore his benefactor without conscience, could he? As I struggled to drag him towards the supermarket, I kept encouraging myself, but he was so heavy that I soon lost patience. Maybe, just leave him here. Life and death are predestined, right, in the end. I couldn't bring myself to abandon him, especially after noticing his handsome face was scratched up. However, I made an interesting discovery. It seemed Lawson had a special constitution. Not only could I, as a zombie, not detect his presence, but the surrounding hordes of zombies also ignored him. Remembering how I had commanded the zombies before, an idea suddenly struck me. I tried howling, and the zombies turned to look at me in unison. I found it amusing and howled again with a command. Realizing they obediently cooperated as if I was their leader, surprised, I realized the zombies actually listened to me, so, I had a couple of relatively decent-looking zombies carry Lawson back to the supermarket. After sending the errand zombies away, I looked at Lawson lying on my bed, unsure of what to do next. After a moment of contemplation, I decided to remove his clothes to check for other injuries. I swear, my intentions were pure until the moment I was about to remove his pants. When I inadvertently looked up, I found him silently watching me. Startled, I fell back onto the floor. Lawson didn't speak. His gaze shifted from my face to his unbuckled belt and then back to me, his expression unreadable. There was a moment when, overwhelmed by immense shame, I thought about jumping off the building to join the zombies. Why couldn't I just wake up? And why do I always act so impulsively, although my intentions were good? Anyone seeing the situation would think I was desperately taking advantage of it. Still, I felt the need to clear my name. In a fluster, I sent him an Instagram message. I swear I wasn't trying to hit on you. I just wanted to check if you were okay. After sending the message, I realized Lawson didn't have his phone with him, so like a turtle shrinking its head back into its shell, I took my phone over for him to see. Then I felt that wasn't quite right either. My explanation, like an unexplained explanation, made my checking him over seem rather suggestive, so I took back my phone and rephrased it. What I mean is, I genuinely just wanted to see if you had any other injuries. I had no other intentions, please believe me. Lawson glanced at the text I had typed, and amidst my anxious gaze, he hummed in acknowledgement. What did that hum mean? I had managed to save him. And I didn't want to ruin the good impression he had of me with these baseless accusations. I was determined to solidify my role as his life-saving hero. Just as I was about to explain further, Lawson spoke first. "Don't be nervous, you saved my life. I can't thank you enough." His voice was slightly hoarse and weak, but inexplicably pleasant to the ear. Not only was his voice pleasant, but so were his words. I didn't expect him to be such a grateful person. I silently applauded myself for my altruistic act. This move was worth it. "Grateful, don't mention it. Does this mean you owe me an even bigger favor?" I quickly typed this on my phone as I moved closer to Lawson. "In the future, as your lifesaver, shouldn't you help me unconditionally if I need it?" After typing, I looked at Lawson with anticipation. I knew from a past life that he was no ordinary person, so if I could secure his support, it would definitely be a profitable move. Lawson looked at me with a meaningful gaze, but I couldn't decipher what his deep, inscrutable eyes meant. "Okay." I heard his pleasant voice make a promise. I tried to keep my cool, but I couldn't help but smile broadly, thinking that with the big boss covering me, I could live worry-free for the rest of my life. Overjoyed, I couldn't resist showing off a bit, so I reached out to adjust his belt. Lawson's expression stiffened, and he struggled to grasp my hand. "I don't break my promises, so there's no need for such gestures." Give me a break. I was just trying to fasten your belt." I gave him a stern look and roughly fastened the belt. After staying at my place for 2 days, Lawson was back to his lively self. According to him, he had jumped from the helicopter before it exploded, and the massive blast had knocked him out. He didn't ask how I found him or how I managed to bring him back to the supermarket, so I didn't bring it up either. If he really pressed the issue, I'd have a hard time explaining how a frail woman like me managed to safely break through a zombie horde and bring him back unscathed. During this time, my supermarket was repeatedly visited by survivors who tried every means to occupy it. My Eden had become highly coveted, eyed greedily by many. Lawson also helped me several times, which further solidified my desire to stick with him. I had to admit, even though I had lived another life, I was still too naive. Thinking that fortifying the supermarket would be enough, reality proved that without Lawson, my supermarket might have changed hands by now. I'm no genius, but I do have some street smarts, and I've always been clear about my own capabilities. To survive this apocalypse, I needed to cling to the coattails of a powerful ally. Lacking ambition is no shame when survival is at stake. So, when Lawson was preparing to leave, I shamelessly offered, "How about I give you the remaining supplies from the supermarket?" Lawson shifted his gaze from his phone. He asked me with a semi-smiling expression, "Are you playing the good guy?" I gave an awkward smile and quickly typed back, "I'm not that noble." Lawson stood beside me, looking down seriously as I typed on my phone. "You said you want to repay your debts of gratitude, so, does that mean you only have the chance to repay when I'm around?" I subtly expressed my intentions. Being a clever man, Lawson caught on immediately. "You want to follow me?" I blinked earnestly and nodded. "Are you sure?" Lawson continued. I nodded seriously again. 2 days later, I followed Lawson with 3 large suitcases and boarded a helicopter. Throughout the flight, I nervously clutched the corner of Lawson's clothing, terrified that the helicopter might explode again. Lawson turned his head and whispered reassuringly, "Don't worry. It won't explode this time." Surprised that he knew what I was thinking, I couldn't help but relax. About 2 hours later, we arrived at a base hidden deep in the mountains and dense forests. I cautiously surveyed my surroundings and noticed that the people here were all well-trained and distinguished, all referring to Lawson as the boss. It seemed they were all Lawson's elite troops. I shivered, realizing I had thrown myself into the lion's den. I knew I had to keep my cover tightly secured from now on. The next few days were relatively peaceful. People at the base were constantly coming and going, and Lawson was elusive. The others were quite polite to me, partly out of gratitude for the supplies I provided, partly out of pity for me being mute, and partly because I was a guest brought back by their boss. So, my life was quite comfortable. I strolled through the woods daily and hid in my room to drink some blood. 2 of my 3 suitcases were filled with blood bags. I thought I could continue living leisurely, but one day, Lawson approached me, asking for a favor. Given the principle of needing to bow under the eaves, I agreed readily. Unexpectedly, he took me on the helicopter and flew directly to the city. When the helicopter landed on the rooftop of a high-rise, I looked at Lawson, perplexed, silently asking what was going on, but before Lawson could speak, zombies suddenly appeared from all directions. I watched in shock as the others deftly eliminated the zombies, growing fearful that they might discover I was actually a zombie too. I dared not think further. The zombies on the rooftop were quickly dealt with, and Lawson stood on the ground, extending his hand. Be careful. I hesitated before reaching out my hand and then jumped down from the helicopter. The others had already entered the building, leaving only me and Lawson on the rooftop. Lawson, holding my hand, tried to enter the building. But I stood still, facing Lawson's questioning gaze. I took out my phone and began typing. What exactly is this about? The feeling of being kept in the dark was unpleasant, especially feeling like a mere tool in the midst of it all. Lawson seemed to sigh, then explained. There's a mutated zombie here that we've tried several times to handle without success. Hearing Lawson's words, I stiffened. So you knew all along. I typed mechanically. You knew I was a zombie, right? Lawson said he had known from the beginning. I felt a mix of panic and confusion, wondering what he meant by having known all along. Why didn't you kill me? I asked, not understanding. Lawson rarely smiled, his voice soft and gentle. At first, I just found it interesting. A sentient and generous zombie like you would be a waste to kill. Besides, you saved my life. How could I repay kindness with ingratitude? I awkwardly looked away, realizing he had seen through my act, so I stopped hiding. I grumbled twice to express my dissatisfaction. Since everything was already known, why wasn't it discussed earlier? And to make matters worse, I was dragged here to deal with some mutated zombies. Lawson understood what I meant and gave a wry smile, then said, I admit, I was wrong this time, but given the urgency of the situation, let's deal with the immediate problems first. I'll make it up to you when we return. Seeing his sincere attitude, I reluctantly nodded in agreement. Once we entered the building, I noticed numerous zombies scattered haphazardly on the floor, clearly the handiwork of the team that had entered before us. Their combat effectiveness was undeniably impressive. The mutated zombie is on the third floor. We need to move quickly. As Lawson whispered this to me, he pulled me towards the elevator. The elevator doors had been pried open by his men, and I saw them tying ropes and jumping down the shaft. I immediately felt uneasy. Turning around without saying a word, I was ready to leave, jumping from the top floor to the third. You've got to be kidding, this was too much for me. However, Lawson grabbed me and pulled me close, whispering, hold on tight. Before I could protest, he wrapped his arms around my waist and jumped. As we rapidly descended, I clung to Lawson's waist while mentally cursing him with every swear word I had learned in my life. After safely landing on the third floor, my legs were so weak I couldn't stand on my own. I continued to cling to Lawson, ignoring the curious and gossip-filled glances from others. Lawson considerately stood by me for a while as the rest of the team dealt with the oncoming zombies. As the zombies were nearly wiped out, Lawson gently tapped my head and said, all right, time to fight. The search for the mutated zombie wasn't easy. Through Lawson's brief explanation, I understood the basics. This mutated zombie was stronger and more intelligent than the regular ones, always managing to avoid long-range attacks and brutally retaliating against ordinary survivors. Thus, Lawson brought a small elite team, including me, to eliminate this mutated zombie. Honestly, I wanted to ask him what made him so confident in me. When I finally saw the mutated zombie, my legs went weak again. It was like the Hulk. I felt it could crush me with just its fingers. Can you try to control it? Lawson even asked me such a question, making me want to slap some sense into him. Dude, I'm not even a match for its dental floss, and you want me to control it? My silence made Lawson back off, and he said, just watch from the side and be careful. He then joined the fight. I crouched in a corner watching Lawson and his team of 10 attack the nearly 3-meter-tall mutated zombie, my hands sweating. The mutated zombie's combat strength was overwhelming, and it was incredibly strong. What was most insane was that it seemed immune to blades and bullets. I saw Lawson's team throw several grenades at it, but they only caused minor superficial injuries, which only enraged it further. It swatted a team member away with a slap. Then, out of nowhere, a zombie lunged at the unconscious team member. I rushed over and blocked it. Although the zombie halted, it growled discontentedly as 3 more zombies appeared behind it, eager to devour the team member. I roared threateningly at the zombies, firmly protecting the team member. While I might not be a match for the mutated zombie, failing to handle regular zombies would be embarrassing. Fortunately, the zombies eventually backed off, but I was still worried, so I checked the team member's breathing and, finding he was still alive, breathed a sigh of relief and stayed by his side to guard him. Suddenly, a terrifying roar startled me. It was the mutated zombie, seemingly driven completely mad. The attack became more vicious, putting Lawson and his team at a disadvantage. As I watched Lawson's team struggle with their offense, I became worried about what I would do if Lawson died young. After all, I had given him all my fortune. If he died, wouldn't I be at a huge loss, to avoid ending up on the streets? I mustered the courage and charged forward, using all my strength to scream at the mutant zombie. My sudden appearance confused the mutant zombie, causing it to stop its attack and look at me hesitantly. Damn, this might work. But just then, one of the team members threw a grenade at the zombie's head, blowing off half of its face. I cursed inwardly, knowing this was bad. As expected, the heavily injured mutant zombie entered a frenzy mode. It completely ignored me. Roaring and attacking indiscriminately, its wildly swinging arms nearly crushed me, but I quickly dropped to the ground, narrowly avoiding a lethal blow. Turning to look at Lawson, I saw he wasn't faring much better. Hey, I growled angrily at Lawson, do you still expect me to control it? I was nearly killed because of you, you jerk. Realizing that I couldn't handle the mutant zombie, Lawson shouted, get over here. I scrambled behind Lawson, not forgetting to cheer him on. Hey. Lawson glanced at me, then charged back to confront the mutant zombie. As I anxiously watched from the side, the zombie lunged at a nearby team member. In a flash, the teammate dodged the attack. However, he managed to dodge, but the mutant zombie charged straight at me. Thanks a lot, I thought sarcastically. With nowhere to run, I trembled and closed my eyes, preparing for the worst, cursing the teammate in my heart. Unexpectedly, before the zombie could strike, someone tackled me to the ground. Shocked, I opened my eyes to find Lawson had saved me. He wasn't near me just moments ago. How did he manage to rush over so quickly? Before I could figure it out, I noticed that Lawson looked terrible. I scrambled up, ready to check if he was injured, but my movements were too abrupt, causing Lawson to grimace in pain. Seeing this, I was sure he was hurt. Indeed, his back was deeply scratched by the mutant zombie, the wound severe and the skin flayed. Panicking, I gestured wildly, trying to say something, but all that came out were gasps. Lawson smiled reassuringly and said with a still calm voice, I'm immune, it's just a minor injury, no big deal. This mutant zombie was incredibly tough, and even Lawson's elite squad couldn't subdue it. To make matters worse, in an attempt to save a teammate, Lawson got caught by the zombie. Watching the zombie open its massive jaws to devour Lawson, I couldn't hold back anymore. I charged forward again, roaring in an attempt to stop it. Strangely, I felt no fear at that moment, only a single thought. I had to save Lawson. The mutant zombie glanced at me with its remaining eye but continued to try to feed Lawson into its mouth. In that critical moment, I don't know where the strength came from, but I felt an unprecedented power surge through me. Without thinking, I jumped onto a nearby table, then leaped to grab the zombie's shoulder, and smashed my fist into its half-blown head, with a fierce roar. My momentum seemed to intimidate the mutant zombie. At that moment, all I could feel was an overwhelming rage. Lawson was my hard-earned pillar of support, and you actually thought of devouring him? Damn it, there I was, standing my ground against a mutated zombie, when out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lawson calmly pull out a hand grenade and stuff it into the zombie's mouth. My courage instantly evaporated, scared away by Lawson's bold move. Lawson, you fool. Even if you're resigned to blowing up the zombie, did you have to drag me into it? In these desperate moments, I always managed to tap into my extraordinary potential. Just as I was about to pull Lawson and jump away, he pulled me into his arms instead and leaped with me through a nearby shattered window. For a moment, I was completely panicked. Lawson always pulls these stunts without consulting me, terrifying anyone with a fear of heights, before we even hit the ground. The grenade exploded with a deafening roar. The explosion was massive, and since we weren't far from it, we were inevitably affected. However, what surprised me was that at the moment we landed, Lawson instinctively acted as my human cushion. As a result, I was unscathed, but Lawson, who I had landed on, had passed out. By then, the third floor was ablaze, and I assumed the mutated zombie was blown to bits. But my heart was still in knots, because Lawson was clearly seriously injured. And I felt that him being unconscious was largely due to him cushioning my fall. This left me feeling incredibly guilty, as if I had brought this upon him. At that time, I had no other choice Unsure of the extent of Lawson's injuries, I dared not move him and could only squat beside him, silently watching over him. Fortunately, our team quickly found us and airlifted us back to base. At the base, a doctor informed us that Lawson's injuries were not life-threatening. Though he had suffered several fractures, which was a stroke of luck under the circumstances, I didn't dare tell others that his fractures were largely my fault. I feared they might kick me out of the base, especially since I had given them all the supplies from the supermarket. Staying here was justifiable, so I comfortably nested in the base while actively attending to Lawson. He was bedridden now, and I generously shared with him the downloaded series, Empress in the Palace. While watching TV and sipping on a blood bag, I was thoroughly enjoying myself. After all, Lawson knew I was a zombie, and I had nothing to hide. Happily drinking from blood bags in front of him every day, he surprisingly didn't mind at all and let me do as I pleased. I chalked all this up to the life-saving debt I owed him, though he had saved me too. But isn't it right that we each acknowledge our own debts? As Lawson recovered swiftly, thanks to his exceptional physical condition, he soon went out with his team to hunt zombies again, without him to watch TV with. Even drinking blood bags felt dull and tasteless. I found myself bored to tears, eagerly waiting for his return. After enough of this tedious routine, I volunteered to join Lawson on his zombie-killing excursions to clear my mind. For a long while, we didn't encounter any mutated zombies again. Killing regular zombies became a breeze. I would often just sit cross-legged, and with a shout, the zombies would freeze like statues. Many times, Lawson would take me to hospitals where he hunted zombies while I looked for blood bags. Finding them, I'd happily bag them and hand them to Lawson, then cheerfully head back to the base with him. Gradually, Lawson began bringing live poultry back to the base. Not rushing to share them but instead starting to raise them. Seeing those lively little animals made my mouth water, yet I dared not sneak a drink. "What are you doing?" Just as I was stealthily drooling over a chick, Lawson suddenly appeared behind me. I was startled and dropped the chick I was holding. "Hey," I grumbled unhappily, "this guy always appears out of nowhere." Lawson, on the other hand, smiled good-naturedly, and picked up the chick. Handing it back to me, I looked at him, puzzled. With a click of his tongue and a shake of his head, Lawson said, "You usually seem so clever, why so naive now? These animals were meant to be for you." "Silly, huh?" For me, I looked at Lawson, confused, trying to gauge the sincerity of his words. Is he just teasing me? The amusement in Lawson's eyes deepened, and he even ruffled my hair, saying, "Constantly drinking blood must be dull, right? Have something fresh to improve your meals." His words nearly moved me to tears. How had I never realized before that Lawson was so understanding and considerate? I patted Lawson on the shoulder and chuckled warmly. I said, "Good deeds are always rewarded." Then I took the chick to a secluded corner to improve my meal. Since I am a girl and needed to maintain some image, not indulging openly in front of others, life visibly got better, mainly reflected in the many nice things Lawson brought me whenever he went out: food, utilities, entertainment, everything I could wish for. Even when we went out to fight zombies, he wouldn't let me lift a finger, just set up a small stool from the car for me to sit on in a clean spot and wait for him. Without realizing it, under the big boss's protection, I lived a life of luxury as a zombie. This was something I had never expected at the beginning. As time passed, humans had established many safe bases and started to handle zombies with ease. After all, most zombies are just walking corpses, powerless under the might of absolute weaponry. And here I was, a zombie, living carefree and safely within Lawson's base. One day, Lawson brought me some good news. He said that with the joint efforts of top experts around the world, there had been a breakthrough in the development of a zombie serum, and its use was just around the corner. Zombie serum. Could I possibly turn back into a human one day? I hardly dared believe it, so I took out my phone and started typing. Who knows if it's true? Lawson smiled. The research team includes members of my family. That certainly added some credibility, but I felt a bit lost. I didn't know if I could continue to stay here if I turned back into a human. Probably not, right? Suddenly, I wasn't so eager for the zombie serum anymore. Noticing my unease, Lawson asked with concern, "What's wrong? You don't seem very happy." I continued typing, conflicted. "Is me turning back into a human good news for you?" Lawson nodded and chuckled. "Indeed. It's good news." Before I could feel disappointed, he whispered in my ear, "When you turn back into a human, wear that red dress for me again, the red dress, that sexy, enchanting red dress." At his words, I turned my head sharply, not realizing he was so close, and accidentally planted a firm kiss on his chin. I was shocked. Lawson was also startled, then couldn't help but laugh. Coming to my senses, I quickly pushed him away, trembling and speechless. If I were human right now, my face would surely be flushed and my heart pounding. Lawson maintained the posture from being pushed away, a light smile in his eyes and a slight curl to his lips, leisurely saying, "When you turn back into a human, it's not too late to throw yourself into my arms." I pretended to be calm. With a dismissive snort, she voiced her disdain. What a shameless ruffian. Yet, secretly, she began to look forward to the day the serum would be available, with Lawson, the influential figure, on her side. The future seemed promising. 2 years later, Lawson took me to get the zombie serum injection. Honestly, I was a bit nervous, but Lawson seemed even more so. He was tense and kept patting my head, whispering reassurances. "It'll be over soon, don't be afraid." I pulled out my phone and started typing. "Seems like you're more nervous than me," Lawson chuckled with a sigh, his voice soft and gentle. "To be honest, I am a bit scared. Maybe we shouldn't do this," looking at him with frustration. I couldn't believe what he was suggesting. "Running away at the last moment isn't your style." I continued to tease him through text. Lawson gazed at me intently, his eyes as warm and tender as a gentle spring breeze. "Style means nothing in front of the person you cherish." His fingers twirled through my hair, his deep, mellow voice caressing my heart lightly, sending tingles through me. His confession was sudden but not out of place. It felt as if everything naturally fell into place. I didn't say much, just silently typed, "Wait for me." After the injection, I slept heavily for 3 days, and when I awoke, Lawson was there by my side. After regaining my human form, I found it hard to adjust and clung to Lawson constantly, feeling secure only when I was near his comforting presence. Over the years, Lawson aged, his handsome features becoming more serious, while I, having spent years as a zombie, retained my youthful appearance. Walking together, the age difference between us was stark. One day, Lawson suddenly brought me a gift, insisting that I wait until the evening to open it, which piqued my curiosity. When evening finally arrived and I began to unwrap the gift, Lawson watched me with a mischievous grin that oddly made my heart race. With anticipation, I opened the gift box, only to be stunned. Inside was a red dress, the very same sexy nightgown I wore when we first met. My mind exploded, sending a blush across my cheeks. "Baby, go put it on, will you?" Lawson's voice, laced with teasing charm, left me disoriented but compliant. As I slipped into the dress, he, with eyes glinting, began to undress me, his voice husky. "Baby, it's time to get serious." In the heat of the moment, I heard Lawson's breathy whisper in my ear, "Baby, you need to grow up fast, otherwise, I feel like I'm taking advantage of a child." At that point, I was beyond words, letting him have his way. Then, I heard him say, "Baby, let's get married."